Hello, you're listening to Stay Bold Radio. This is the Aberration, episode 26, U.S. government entraps U.S. citizens with child pornography. I'm your host, Cole Johnson. Today's date is February 7th, 2014. The time is approximately 8:04 Eastern Standard Time, and I'm excited about tonight's show. We've been talking before the show just went live, and there's going to be several speakers tonight. My main guest is a woman named Kitty Wolf. I'm bringing her live right now. Hello, Kitty.
Hi, Cole. How are you?
Super. Thanks for asking. Tonight's going to be a big episode. It's a very dark and deep subject that anybody in the truth community that's done any amount of research has come up on this topic, and but not as many people have had to deal with it at a personal level. So I'm going to go ahead and let you have the mic and tell the audience your story.
Okay. Well, my story is a simple one. It's something I never, ever, ever wanted to do. I never wanted to become that child porn internet lady or that computer kid's aunt. But I have a nephew I love very much. His name is Andrew Rose, and he lives in Missouri, Sullivan, Missouri. Approximately a little over 3 years ago, Andrew was just a normal kid going to high school, but not normal in the ways that most people would think. He's a high-functioning autistic kid, but he was trying to complete high school against astronomical odds. He'd been bullied. He'd been picked on. He'd gone to summer school every year since the second grade. Was never tested for learning disabilities. That's one of those school systems that looks good on paper, but when you take a closer look, they never did what they were supposed to. Anyway, I flew down, and we were having a nice little visit in Missouri when my sister-in-law, Suzanne Thompson, was telling me about an episode that had happened. There were some police officers that came to her house, and they had separated Andrew and down in his room in the basement and separated Sue and her daughter Megan upstairs. And they had asked for the computers. And Andrew, of course, and Sue gave him the computers, and they questioned Andrew. And, I asked, what was this about? And I guess Andrew had looked on a site called LimeWire. LimeWire, for those of you that don't know, is a P2P file sharing site. Okay, there are many out there, but LimeWire is the one that Andrew hit. Andrew was looking up a song, just a song, and there are many songs that you can download off of these sites. He was looking up a song, and when he found the song, he hit the link. The way these sites work is you're looking up titles to songs, and you hit the link, and in order to get that song and listen to that song, you download it. You open the link. Okay? Well, Andrew did this, and there was pictures of a teenage girl. He deleted it immediately. He thought he had done something wrong. Maybe I misspelled it again or punched it in wrong. So he tried it again, and the same link came up. He deleted it. That was all my nephew did, period. Okay? So naturally, upon hearing that my sister-in-law's home had been raided by 5 different police agencies, and they had taken the computers and questioned Andrew, my sister-in-law was naive to things like, restraining orders or how it works, as most people are. If you've got 5 police officers at your door saying, oh, we need to come in and talk to you, the average person is going to open that door and let them in. She did. Okay? And, quite frankly, I probably would have done the same thing, too, if my autistic kid was downstairs on a computer looking up a song, But this didn't happen the day of the raid. This had happened a year previous to that, meaning a year before they came to Andrew's house is when Andrew had hit the link. Okay, folks? So remember that. It took a year. It can be a long time from the time you hit a link to the time they come to your door. I was curious. I wanted to know more about this. I love my Andrew dearly, and I knew he hadn't done anything wrong. He just is not that kind of kid. Okay, so I picked his brain a little bit further. and I looked at the paperwork. And what I realized had happened was something heinous. But in the meantime, the police officers all came to the door and took the evidence, and they left. Okay, they left. They left Andrew there. And it was a year later. A year later, I got a frantic phone call from Suzanne that the police had picked up Andrew in front of his high school and had taken him to jail on possession of child pornography. Okay? We went into Prozac mode is the best way to describe it. We immediately got on the phone to the family down in Missouri because I'm in Alaska, okay? So me and my husband got on the phone to the family down in Missouri and, hey, listen, you got to do something, get a lawyer, bail this kid out of jail. And we did other things. We lit up the dashboard of the jail down there to let them know, hey, listen, this is an autistic kid. And that was really important information, okay, something that if you know anything about autism, it's very important to relay to police officers. Okay, so eventually Andrew was bailed out of jail on $50,000 cash bond, and he has been, in the meantime, sitting in his mother's basement. There are things called conditions of release. Conditions of release vary from state to state. In fact, when it comes to these things altogether, we'll get into this later in the show, they drastically vary. The possession of child pornography, folks, is a federal offense. But like I said, it varies from state to state on varying degrees and how different people handle it. So he was released from jail, and he's been on bond. And there are conditions of release. Part of the conditions of release is he's not allowed to be around children younger than him. Okay? So, long story short, my sister-in-law got divorced. Her husband had 2 children from a previous marriage, little girls, that would not be allowed to be around Andrew. Okay? And that put tension on the family. I flew down there as soon as I could after these events happened. I was down there within a week and started my own little foot trail investigation into all this because I knew that all this kid had done was look up a song, okay? I could not understand for the life of me why the FBI and ICE, yes, ICE is involved too, and many other agencies were going after this kid. So I flew down there, and we started investigating and looking into everything. I wanted to know everything. Okay, at this point, I had to know everything because it was not making sense to me whatsoever. I had never even heard of something called Project Flicker. And most people can Google that and look it up, and when you do, you'll see a lot about Andrew on there. Project Flicker was a program that was designed to catch government employees that would trade in child porn. Here's how it worked. What these agencies decided to do was to go to P2P file sharing sites. These sites some of them are LimeWire, FrostFire, Bearpaw. There are many others out there, but these are some of them. Okay. Now, how does this thing work? How did this come to be? Well, this came to be because there was a huge amount of child pornography that was obviously being traded over the Internet. Child pornography is pictures of somebody under the age of 18 that depicts sexuality. They can be naked. They can be in a sexual explicit position, so it doesn't necessarily have to be nudity. It's any form of exploitation of a child in this fashion. Okay? In order to catch the people that would trade in child pornography, they had to come up with a plan. So the plan was they would take certain key songs on different sites and plant child pornography. Here's why they chose certain key songs. Way back when, before the Internet, people would trade in child porn. It's been going on for a very long time, and it is disgusting. But here's how they would do it. They would use key phrases like honeypot. Honeypot is a terminology that is used by people that trade in child pornography. Okay? So if you're going to do a sting to catch people that would trade in child pornography and you don't have an internet that you can control to do it other ways, you go after the formula that they use to trade. Here's the problem with that. Okay? Honeypot, yes, is a term that is used by people that trade in child pornography. Honeypot is also the name of a Walt Disney song that describes a Winnie the Pooh episode. Okay? Our P2P file sharing site doesn't just have songs. It has videos. It has games. It's anything that you wish to trade with another person. It's an open format where you can download all of your record albums and trade them with somebody else and trade songs. The problem with P2P file sharing sites is that most of the media that people are downloading to these sites are copyrighted. Okay, what I mean by that is that I'm Kenny Rogers and I wrote a song, I want royalties off that song. If you're buying these albums and then you're putting them on P2P file, Tom can download them for free, I'm not getting my royalties. Copyright plays a very big issue in the way and why they decided to go after the P2P file sharing sites. Okay? So that's just to give you a little bit of background on that. So when we were investigating it, we wanted to know why. We came across Project Flicker. Project Flicker was initially designed back in 2003 to go after employees. We had military people, Pentagon people, congressmen, senators, using government computers and trading in child porn. So a joint task force was formed to go after and see just how prevalent the problem was. They laced different sites, P2P file sharing sites, with pictures of child porn. Now, many people ask me, where did they get the child porn? There's a place called the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. All past known cases that have been solved or apprehended, there are still the pictures and files of these children in sexually explicit, format. This center puts a small tag on these pictures, a little tag that only they can see. You can't see it if you're downloading these pictures. So you don't know if it was made yesterday or if it was made in 1972. But the Center for Missing and Exploited Children does. Law enforcement uses past files and past pictures of children, it is said with the blessing of the victims, to go ahead and go after new perps. One of the reasons that they do this through the Missing and Exploited Children's Network is so that the ones with tags they know are legitimately stings or cases that they have identified. The ones without tags that they may come across, they know that that's new, it has not been documented, and this person has not been identified. Okay? So, Project Flicker. They took pictures of porn and they placed it on songs. They ran the sting. What did the sting net? Okay, what did they come up with? The sting netted 5,700 Pentagon or government employees that were caught up in this sting.
How many?
5,700.
Over 5,000.
Government employees.
Okay.
5,700 government employees. Now, this means people that work for the military or for the Pentagon or for other forms of government agencies that were caught using government computers and in some cases even government credit cards to download or obtain child pornography. Anderson Cooper did a news story on that. If you Google that number and Anderson Cooper, you can come up with a video on it. Or you can go to the event page. It's been posted on there and see it there. Now, what happened? What happened? Okay, Project Flicker, what happened? Here's what happened. Absolutely nothing. I repeat, absolutely nothing. To the government employees that knowingly use government computers and government credit cards, nothing happened to them. Okay? Not until after Anderson Cooper ran his story, against their wishes, I might add, did it even get the attention that it deserved. To me, that was alarming because this is my government, right? These are the people that I trust. These are the people that are supposed to be out there protecting us from all this stuff, and they were the ones using it. After getting sick to my stomach, when I learned that, literally, I wanted to know more. At this point, I became pissed, okay? You mean that you spent how much of my tax dollars going after and executing this sting to a joint global task? Because most of the child pornography is produced offshore, meaning not in the United States. I'm not saying there isn't any produced here. There is. But the majority of the traded items are not here. And they're not here for a reason, because we're supposed to have protections in place. Okay? It wasn't until Senator or Congressman Grassley got involved that a few, and I believe that there were 27 is the number I'm coming up with in my head, that were eventually prosecuted, and those were only what they considered to be the most heinous. Okay, so there's a lot of people in my government.
27 out of 5,700?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Hey, Sue, I'm sorry, Kitty. Sue is on the line at this point, and I think
awesome.
This might be a good point.
I'd love for her to tell you about her side of this.
I think this is a good time to bring in the rest of the callers. We have Andrew's mother, Sue, and we have Chris on the line, as well as Scott. So we're going to bring everybody in. After you hear unmuted, you're live on Stable Radio. Welcome, Chris. Welcome, Scott. Welcome, Sue.
Hi.
Hi.
Sue, I was just telling them about Project Flicker.
Yeah, I've been listening to what you've been saying, and you're absolutely right. From a mother's point of view that's been going through this for a little over 3 years, I just find it absolutely unbelievable that for 2 clicks of a mouse, my son has almost already been, like he was convicted already, because our lives have changed so much, and we have to live under such rule now, and the courts are just delaying, and they are not giving us our day in court because we are fighting back. My son is not what they say he is. He's innocent.
He's a virgin.
He's a virgin. He was 17 when he clicked on the song, and honestly, that's all he wanted was that song. And then all of this mess has completely turned every single one of our lives in this home upside down. I cannot believe that they're going after special needs kids, because Andrew's not the only one that's been caught up in this.
No. When we did a video, Josh Barnes did a video for us called Andrew's Story. You can also Google that on YouTube. When that video came out, we started getting contacted from other special needs kids or parents all over the map. Remember those days, Sue?
Yes.
We even did a special email just for them, because our room that we had started on Facebook when we decided to take this public was support for Andrew Rose, public support for Andrew Rose.
Hey, Sue.
We had no clue that there were others.
Sue.
Yes.
Sue, I'm sorry to interrupt. When I brought the callers on, I started hearing this clicking noise on my end, and I was thinking at first maybe it was my end, but I'm getting listener feedback that it is going live. I don't know whose line that is.
Call back?
I'm going to
No,
I'm
do
going to
you
try
have your computer volume on?
No, I don't even have my computer on right now.
Oh, guess what? It stopped.
I think it's Scott's line. Let me double check that and confirm it.
Okay, I'm going to take my speaker off and see if that does anything for it.
Yeah, take your speaker off, Scott. There you go.
Okay, is that any better?
No, I'm still getting it.
It's still there. I'm so sorry, Scott.
Scott, why don't you hang up and call in on my cell phone?
I will do that. It'll be another 907 number.
Okay.
Gotcha. I'll look for you. Okay.
I'll be back in a minute.
Thank you. Okay, sorry about that to the listening audience. So just to reiterate, Sue was giving testimony that her son, Andrew, at 17 years old, is a virgin and essentially innocent, not really a sexual predator type individual. He's an innocent autistic child, and this is not something that he was going out of his way to look for. And, I think that was where we left off.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, and to our surprise, when the police officers showed up at our door, it's very scary. And when they're telling us that they're looking for child pornography, I'm racking my brain trying to think, what in the world, and it was it's just mind-boggling to me because I still, after 3 years, cannot believe that my family has been put through this hell, and I don't even know when it's going to stop because the court system just keeps delaying and postponing and prolonging Andrew's day in court. And I can't help but think that's because we're fighting back because I know that my son is innocent and he would never hurt a child. He would never hurt a child. And, his whole life has come to a stop. He had just started making friends at school after a 13-year school career of a very tough way to go with his autism. He was bullied. He was backward. He was shy. He was not good in school. But he had finally started coming out of his shell and making friends, and and this happened, and the school kicked him out for these reasons. And
the school didn't just kick him out. The prosecuting attorney, Mr. Parks of Franklin County, Missouri, called the school and basically had him kicked out, which was a violation of Andrew's constitutional rights. And so what we're going to do is we have a lawsuit filed against Sullivan School District.
Excellent. And
we started getting contacted from everybody. It was nuts. It was nuts.
We're going to take a break here in a little bit. Before we go to break, we've got the crash course on Andrew's story, and one of our guests tonight is Chris. And I'd like to give the basic story for Chris before we go to the first break as well. Chris, if you'd like to let the audience know your story.
All right. In Florida and across the country, law enforcement, in cooperation with the ICAC, which is the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, which kitties, they're involved in kitties things as well. They are conducting these, what they call these proactive child solicitation stings, where they allege that, these type of stings are designed in response to child predators on the Internet that are looking to solicit, sexual conduct from minors and parents of minors. Except what's really happening is they are posting these sexual advertisements on adult sex personals or adult dating sites, and they're styling the advertisements, under an adult age, stating they're an adult, and it varies. The details vary, from thing to thing, but that's the general, consistency that they seem to be doing, and then they draw these people in. These people are already looking for sexual encounter and whatnot, and they're under the guise they're contacting these people, the law enforcement, and they're under the presumption it's an adult, and and in some cases it's the they lead them on for a little while, and then they'll bait and switch. Suddenly they'll become a minor, and then whenever people are reluctant or people back out, then they go and they'll pursue people, and they'll badger them into, meeting them, or it may not even be a sexual context. I've seen a lot of cases where the guy's obviously just looking for like a companionship. They're lonely. Most people go to Craigslist casual encounters is one of the favorites that police are targeting. A lot of people on there are just they're just desperate to have any kind of social interaction. So police are leveraging this, and then they're trying to lure these guys to go over to their stings that they have set up. And sometimes they'll request the guys to bring the stereotypical candy or teddy bears or whatever, and they're not doing it. It's law enforcement are the ones that are requesting it. They may make it in a request like, oh well, can you pick this up for me? Because kind of like almost like an errand, asking them to do an errand for them. And then they'll when they arrest these people, they say, oh, these men were out stalking down minors. They were out hunting down these minors, soliciting parents or whatever to consent to have these their minors participate in sex acts. And look, they brought candy, they brought this and that, brought condoms or whatever, and in some of the cases they have, it's direct on with it's just one party, and then some of them they'll have you corresponding with an adult, which is what was in my case. I was corresponding with an adult, and it was an advertisement that was styled as like a threesome, and it said it was they were 19 years old, and I contact her and say, I'm interested and blah blah blah, and disclose myself, and I asked if they're interested, and she said, yeah, we are. And then she suddenly says, I have a little sister visiting me for the summer. She's 14. You okay with that? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with that as long as you're of age. And in the courtroom, they twist this around like, well, right there, I should have known that I'm okay, or her visiting for the summer meant she was actually one of the 19-year-olds was not a 19-year-old, she was a minor. And they misconstrue it and leverage the hell out of it. Obviously,
as if a 19-year-old couldn't have an 18-year-old sibling.
Right,
yeah.
Or even a twin sibling, or sometimes they don't even have to be related. It could be that's just sisters. It's just a term. It could be friends or whatever. A friend or whatever. And that the way they justify this, they go on stand and they say, because I had a jury trial, and they go on stand, they say, well, this is a known propensity that this is some out of control situation where we have to post advertisements like this, and they're trying to infer that I know the score, like as if I'm already I'm engaged in this whatnot, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying about the honeypot, that it's some kind of common knowledge. That as if I'm in this, and I know this, and they twist the words around, and it's actually they have this down to a science as far as I see it, because some of the things that you say, you know, the way a conversation goes on like a casual encounter like that is it can be kind of misconstrued for something else, because here I'm thinking safety. I don't know these people. They're asking me to go right to their house. I prefer to meet out in public, but, you know, at that time I had a relationship issue where I was actually seeing a married woman. I didn't know she was married until way later, and her husband's coming back. So obviously I'm a little upset about that. And I want to go somewhere to take my mind off of it. Doesn't mean I'm going to screw around or whatever. I just want to go see someone else, take my mind off of it. You know, so, you know, I actually took off and did that when, you know, an officer said a certain thing, you know, she said a certain thing, because I wasn't interested at first. You know, I wasn't taking these people serious. I wasn't really paying attention to the conversation, you know, because that was the only time age was brought up. That was it. When she said 14, visiting for the summer, you know, I wrote it off when I said, you know, I'm okay with that as long as you're of age. I mean, you know, somehow they suppressed that in the trial as to not meaning anything. Or actually what they said is it only applied to the one girl, but not the other. That's what the prosecutor said. And, you know, they kept reinforcing that, which, you know, that blows my mind. How does that even happen, you know? So,
because there's an obscene amount of money in the budgets that they have to spend to justify the obscene amount of money given to go after child predators. When you're netting, and the majority of what you're netting when you do your first initial stings of people within your own government, then you need to rethink how you're doing it, because, of course, you can't take out half the Pentagon now, can you? Okay, so the end result of this is you follow the money. There are 61 active stings going on right now, many forms. 61, okay? And that's just what the DOJ is admitting to. Okay, I know of 16. We've heard Andrews a little bit about it. Project Flicker morphed into many different branches. The Florida sting, when we get back from break, I want to get more into that, because Florida is one of those states that did get an obscene amount of money, okay? And what he's going to tell you is going to be really important to listen to.
Yeah, we have facts.
Well,
we've done a lot of work. So, yeah.
This is a good time to go. This is a good time to go ahead and take a break, and when we get back, we'll start with what Kitty was talking about with the Florida sting, I suppose. It's whatever topic you guys want to talk about next. I just want to try to help, keep this for the audience to where they can understand. We're talking about multiple, all under the umbrella topic of child porn on the Internet, sting operations, but there's, like Kitty said, there's multiple operations. So the one that Andrew was involved in is slightly different than the one Chris was involved in versus other stories out there. So when we get back, we'll get into the specifics of those, the varieties. And we are back on Stable Radio. This is the Aberration, episode 26. U.S. government uses child pornography to entrap citizens. And we have Kitty, Chris, Sue, and Scott on the line. And we're going to pick up where we left off. Kitty, you were going to talk about the Florida.
Yeah. One thing that you need to remember, and is prevalent in all of these things, is there is an obscene amount of money. What started off to be Project Flicker in Andrew's case morphed into many other programs. One of the most particular heinous ones I've heard about is the cases going on down in Florida that we've labeled, and we've dubbed with our own little nicknames. We've dubbed this one Florida Stings. Now, Chris relayed to you kind of how they go about doing it. They will go to adult sites and strike up a conversation and lure you in. Okay, when you look at why they are doing that, and you can say money, sex, and power rules the world. In this case, it really does. Okay, the money attached to the cases, how are they paid? They are paid per conviction. I repeat, they have to justify their spending. They are paid per conviction. When you can't persecute your own government employees in the Pentagon, you've got to justify your spending, and you've got to show a conviction rate when you go before the Judiciary Committee and Congress again to re-tap into those fundings, okay? In the Florida cases, the way that they are going about doing it is highly in question, and I'll let Chris go ahead and pick it up again from there. And then, Chris, I'd like for you to tell them, too, about the cost related on your end, because in order to understand all these things, people, you've got to understand the money. Go, Chris.
Right. Well, what it starts with is Florida, law enforcement and ICAC, they get these grants. They're working to figure out how to be eligible for these grants that they masquerade as child using it or needing it to combat the internet child sex issue. That's only a little bit of money. Like you said, the DOC or the DOJ and the DOC, I mean, the money comes in different forms. Federal grant is just one way. The other one is, the court, the conviction. They get they get the supervising, the cost of supervising. They get what the state pays them per prisoner. They get sex offender costs or whatnot. Which is because I'm still serving my sentence, so I know the cost firsthand on all that.
What have you spent out of pocket, Chris?
What have I paid? Well, I went and I did the stupid thing, the naive thing. I went and paid a private lawyer and a private appellate lawyer. So I'm up. I don't even know what I'm at. And they also seized my vehicle. They seized everybody's vehicle because once you get charged with a felony in Florida, even as soon as you're charged, they repossess the vehicle. No conviction. As soon as you're charged, they own that vehicle, and you have to. And it's at their discretion whether they want to sell it and what they want to sell it back to you for. Or
and this
actually,
is
what they'll
as soon
do
as you get charged, right? As soon as you get charged.
Any felony in Florida. It doesn't matter
so
what
for those
kind of felony.
people that believe that you're innocent until proven guilty, that does not apply here, does it?
That's right, and it's not just in this kind of instance. I mean, there's a lot of pockets and areas of the law that I'm not even aware of that they get away with doing that.
That's just straight up piracy. And when you want to get into the subject of talking about courts illegally seizing people's property on presumed guilt, that falls into what U.S. courts actually operate under admiralty law. That's why every time you walk in a courtroom and you look at the stars and stripes and you look at those flags, it has a gold fringe. That gold fringe designates admiralty law, and that's how they're able to seize property. But you're making an excellent point that guilty and proven innocent. In this, they say innocent until proven guilty, but that's a perfect scenario where there's presumed guilt, and they've taken this man's car, and he's not even been found guilty yet. That's ludicrous.
And he's not even done yet. He's not even done telling you about it yet. Keep going, Chris.
Yeah. Then they, then you have to bond out. So when I was charged. The particular sting I was charged in is they were charging $100,000 per count. I had 5 counts of charges, and so my bond was at $500,000. Most of the guys was $300,000. That was when, as soon as you're arrested, they're holding you with this bond. Obviously. I think only one guy bonded out immediately, and that's a substantial amount of money to do so.
Yeah, how many people have that laying around?
I guess one guy did. He paid. I mean, there's 2 ways to do a bond. You can either post the whole bond, or you can pay a bondsman to a portion of the money, and that money you will not get back. So $300,000, it's 10%, I believe. 30. I think it was 10%, 30,000 to get out, whatever. But that's just details. So anyway, it took me 80 days to get to a bond reduction hearing, which the judge lowered it to $25,000. So you're out on bond. You got these restrictions. No internet access, no contact. No internet access, and that internet access is something that I regret not contesting because I had no clue about the law. And so I just completely trusted my lawyer, and I just sat around for 8 months waiting for, to get to the courtroom, which, of course, I didn't know it was going to be 8 months. But anyway, so no contact with minors under 18. What else was there? Got to live at, you got to report your residence where you live in. That's the three that stand out. But like I said, the internet access is what's the kicker. And so I tried to actually get a job too. I actually had 3 jobs in like a week or a week and a half, and I got fired from all of them. Actually, fired from all of them. 2 of them admitted that they looked me up. And mind you, this was before a trial. They looked me up and they said they didn't want any part. They didn't want to associate with anybody like that. One of them sent me a text message. One of them called me. And the one that called me tried to play it off as, well, you said you weren't bonded on your job application. Yeah, I wasn't bonded in that way. But she played it off as that. And then, so, that just the accusation alone, it's just ridiculous. And the public's perception of it. That's just a small example, I think our arrest count is up to 927 we know of. I don't know everybody's story and whatnot. Some of those guys pled out and you don't hear them again, Then you got some like me and Trey who was fortunate enough to get a reversal on the appellate level. He's been in it. He was arrested with me actually a couple days after me. And the same thing, he's talking to the same officer. This officer is apparently notorious for doing this type of the type of content that she says and the type of lure I guess you want to call it, the type of lure to put it eloquently. That she the way she crafts the conversations. It's just, like I said, they got it down to a science, and me and Kitty are posting comments back and forth about. A couple hours ago about just a different perspective on. What's that?
Hey, Chris. We actually speaking of Trey, we actually have him on the line now. If you want to bring him in.
Hey, bring him in.
Trey is Chris can probably tell you better, but Trey is from the Florida area and was involved in one of these Florida Sucks stings as well. Welcome to Stable Radio, Trey.
Can you hear me? I'm here.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay, all right. How y'all doing? Good evening.
Good evening, Trey. It's Kitty.
I know. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing? We were just talking about the cost of the stings and what that cost you and how they work.
Right. Well, the federal code that created IC stipulates, all the requirements, for the grant formula. So, but on average, they're saying for like a week-long operation is anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000. For like a weekend-long operation is like $15,000 to $20,000. Now, when they get these grants, they get them usually on a quarterly type. It's like $300 and something thousand at a time. But that pays for like training and these things, of course, but. We haven't been able to break down the expenditures, which is something I'm waiting on right now. But I've requested, submitted 2 Freedom of Information Act requests, and what I've got back was it was pretty sad in my opinion. It was lacking all the information that should have been there for one, and even the information that was there is just inadequate. It's really hard to make a proper assessment, but I am seeing problems with their reporting for sure. But the reporting doesn't take into account tactic cues and stuff like that, where these a predisposition really doesn't look into those things, and that's the problem. They're creating criminals, not actually arresting true predators.
Right. How much percentage of the funding for the Florida stings was designated for education of the public?
That we don't know, but that is part of the grant formula. That they are supposed to do it, have public service announcements, stuff like that, and go to schools and teach children and this, that, and the other about online safety. They do that.
Exactly. In Andrew's case, that was something that was never done. In fact, the agency that was charged with the responsibility of educating the schools didn't get into the schools till a year after Andrew had been arrested. They quite frequently spend that funding training officers and not the general public. So I want to get that in there.
Right. It's really hard to break down the monies until we get those quarterly reports. That we know how much money they're spending on a quarterly basis, but we just don't know what they're spending it on. and I totally expect to find some serious problems with it, because we know they're not these officers or detectives that are working these cases. They're not being properly trained, and that's part of the requirement of the federal code. Is this money is supposed to be used to train these guys, and it's not being used properly. So, and I go on in that article that I wrote on Florida Sting Operations Explained. I think I sent that link in just a little bit ago. So it's an atrocity. It's bad what's happening on any which way you look at it. It's bad.
It's very bad.
Well, and it's we don't even know that they're not being trained properly. The officer me and Trey were corresponding with, because we were in the same sting. She said she had these training courses and whatnot. She's been to multiple training courses. Are they just intentionally deviating from it to rack up the arrest count? And that's what the body count, so to speak. And that's what I think is more realistic, perspective of what's actually happening. But
it's called cooking the books. And just like I think it was back in December, there was another guy out of the Daytona area that was acquitted, and she was involved in the same operation that guy was as we were. And there's no doubt that these officers they're not following the rules. We have proof of that. It's just getting the right person to listen to us. That's the problem. So
right, the judge will be agnostic to a lot of certain issues. They won't even address it. Like I know my judge ignored like things that would have changed the outcome of the case.
That gets back to stigma and public perception. I'm going to admit that I was one of those that would have said, "Hang you guys high," and I mean hang you.
Hey,
I was one of those
kind
of mamas.
Hey, me too. I would have been one of them too.
Absolutely.
But the interesting thing that we're not seeing is there is a percentage of that money in all grants and all forms of the sting that is supposed to be spent and designated specifically for education of the public. Okay,
right, and
that's very specific designated funding there.
Right, and that's noted in the Operational and Investigative Standards Manual, that guides these operations anyway. That they're supposed to be, they're supposed to conduct, educational purposes and spend money accordingly. Whether
I'm going to bring Sue back in. I want Sue to tell you guys about the educational part of this. A year after Andrew started going through this, they finally decided to do something at the school. It wasn't advertised right, and it was after school hours. Now, note, they're supposed to go into the high school and teach. It was after school hours. Sue, do you want to tell them about your experience with the educational part of this?
I was informed maybe a week and a half by a flyer that was on Facebook of the safety class that they were going to have over the Internet. And so I gathered all of my employees and tried to get the word out on from my Facebook, letting parents and people know in my town about this Internet safety course. And when I showed up, there were 9 people in the class, and I brought 7 of them. And the FBI officer that was conducting the safety course, pretty much all he talked about was Facebook and how you're not supposed to put your pictures up there and where you are and, things like that. When I raised my hand to talk about the flicker sting, he got very agitated and said that he did not know anything about it, or he didn't know the flicker sting by that name, and completely changed the subject.
It had morphed. Originally, flicker was meant for the government. It had morphed. But, yeah, what about when you asked him about LimeWire?
He told me that downloading songs from LimeWire was illegal anyway, so, that's probably why they came after Andrew. But he had nothing to say about accidentally hitting a wrong site or something that has been planted or whatever.
Did he hand you any literature that says, warning, we're conducting a child pornography sting, do not let your children go to this site, sincerely the FBI? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. He had nothing to had nothing to hand out. He did a PowerPoint and talked more about himself, pretty much, that he would get on there on Facebook himself and act like a 14-year-old kid and, you know, try to talk to other people to see if he could, I guess, lure them in, you know, and really we got no education at all. I think it was just a class that was set up.
Where was that at? That's good information, because if they're not being effective, you know, they're essentially wasting.
Missouri.
That was in Sullivan, Missouri.
And tell them the name of the organization.
I'm sorry, what?
Tell them the name of the regs organization.
Oh gosh, I just know the initials was REGGS, I believe.
Yes, regs, and you can look it up online in Franklin.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Franklin County.
And one thing to remember is the only reason this even happened was because we went public with Andrew.
That's the only reason they decided to, because we called up the reg and asked them about their spending and why they didn't educate or forewarn anybody. In particular, the most vulnerable segment of the population of the school children, which are the autistic kids.
Who arrested Andrew, by the way? I mean, I haven't dug into that case very much, but who arrested him? Was it ICAC? Was it part of an ICAC agency, or?
They actually did the arresting. It was police officers and one FBI agent that came to the first raid at the house, so we call it the raid. The very first initial raid, there were 5 different agencies represented, 5 different police officers, each one from a different agency. It was part of the joint task force.
Okay. Were they part of the ICAC program, though?
Yes.
Were they signed?
Yes,
okay,
they were.
All right, so because I have the op standards right in front of me right now, and you know, and this, you know, discusses pretty much, what the ICAC program is supposed to be doing. If they're not doing that, obviously we already know that. Then the more information we have, the better. Because like I said, I'm in the middle of writing a letter to the Attorney General right now, and it's every little bit of information that I have that points out them, you know, that points out wrong with me.
There's a news thing going around that I want to get out on air here, and it really, really bothers me. Okay. After we became the internet porn sting lady, we started getting calls about 4 months ago, calls, PMs, emails, about 4 months ago about angry birds. Okay, let me explain how this one works. Okay, like I said, we're going to talk about 16 that I know about that are active, that I've actually dealt with people that have been involved in and have bothered to investigate. The angry bird sting operates like this. When you're live and you're on Angry Birds and you're playing with other people, you will find a link in some cases. Not only do you find a link, but the link actually tells you if you would like to improve your score or get some inside information on how to do this or that, hit this link. Do not do it. When you hit the link, child porn pops up. The youngest victim of this is 11 years old.
I've never heard of Angry Bird.
What?
I've never heard of Angry Bird before. This is the first time I've heard of this.
It's going on right now. It's one of the active stings going on, and we actually have dubbed it Angry Birds. Now, there's a lot on the Internet about Angry Birds and how the NSA does go about gleaming all the information that the players put online. And this site, too, is another site frequented by children. Okay, one of my big complaints in Andrew's sting is the average user of the LimeWire, FrostWire, BearPaw. These are all after cursors to the Napster from my generation, are young people under the age of 25. Okay, so in my book, that's targeting individuals. And it's even targeting them further when you're taking money from DOJ, and that's supposed to go for educational purposes to prevent that behavior, but you wait 5 years after the fact before you even do any education, and when you do it to substandard level so that, you know, nobody shows up.
Yeah, you're not taking money out of the DOJ, you're taking money out of the American taxpayers' wallet. That's what you're doing. And, you know, and the government and the people could care less because they're being duped, they're being fooled. And it's
we have found 13 cases of people that have hit those links on Angry Birds. Here's what we don't know, okay? We don't know a lot about it other than the fact that they have been arrested, okay, for possession of child porn, okay? Now, a lot of people are going to ask, how the heck does that work? Here's how it works, okay? We signed a wonderful bill called Patriot Act, and we have something called the NSA. We know that the NSA does, and that's been all over the sites for people to look at. I even posted it in the event page about Angry Birds, okay, and how much information they're able to glean, okay? If you're able to glean it one way, you're able to put things in another way. Remember, the Internet is two-way doors, people. It's not a one-way door. It's a two-way door, okay? Traffic can flow in and traffic can flow out, okay? The big giveaway is it's almost a half-screen pop-up that comes up and says, if you would like to improve your score, hit this. One of the parents involved said that she thinks that it maybe is coming from other opponents or other players. I would believe that if I hadn't heard it from several other people. We have found 13 cases of that. That's the most active case we have going on. We know very little about it. We're still awaiting more information from other parents as they go along the legal process in this. But the 13 cases that we have found so far are cases where they had hit a link on the Angry Birds, and the links all say the same thing. It's about improving your scores. So just be leery of that, people, okay? Well, I'm done with that one. I'd like to ask you as well about the costs. What are the costs to you as somebody that's been involved in this system? I want people to see what it really does cost. It's a lot more than just what the average person that hasn't been through it would think, you know. So what are your costs, Everett?
Who are you talking to?
Yeah, you. What were your costs? Yeah, what does it cost you?
Well, you know, I didn't hire a private attorney. In my case, I went through the public defender, but I had, you know, some very good public defenders. Of course, I didn't win my case until the appeal. Cost-wise, I'm sitting at, like, my expenditures are over, you know, right now I'm counting at $110,000. And that's lost wages and stuff like that, and, you know, just since I've, you know, since the last, it's been 2.5 years now. So,
right.
It's climbing, and that's, you know, that's, I haven't been able to find a job too, and I'm a free man now. It's you know, that once you're labeled that pedophile, I mean, it's tough to get rid of. If you
even though you're free, you still have a hard time finding a job because of what's out there.
Absolutely, and so, you know, my fight continues, even though I am free. But you know, it's a fight where you know, it's a just cause. And there's no doubt about that. Like, you know, it's all about exposure. We need exposure, and we've been, you know, actually this year we've had 2 news stories go out, which I've been fighting for the last 2 years just to try to get any story to go out there, and we've been pretty successful this year so far. So hopefully we'll continue that same pattern. I'm pretty optimistic about that. There's a lot going on right now for sure.
Now, people have asked me a lot about guidelines. Don't they set guidelines for these things? Aren't there things they're allowed to do and things they're not allowed to do? Hang on to your pantyhose, folks. It doesn't work that way. Okay? Just because there may be a set of suggested guidelines does not mean that they will follow them. Okay? There are guidelines in everyone's case. One of the other prevalent stings that's going on right now, we have dubbed Porngate. Porngate is particularly bad. What this is the deliberate setup and use of child pornography to take out one's opponent. We have a friend, a very good friend of ours, who's an alternative news reporter. This reporter was set up with child porn. There are others that have been attempted set up. There was from Oath Keepers, one of the heads of Oath Keepers, Daniel Johnson, who runs Panda, was attempted set up. Now, these are some pretty Internet-savvy boys, so when they knew that they had gotten an email, and it's set up through email, particularly through Tor mail, if you guys are familiar with Tor mail, okay? If not, look it up. Use your Google. What Tormail is supposedly a secure form of communication, okay? But nothing on the web, people, nothing, and I mean nothing is secure. Okay, here's how Porngate works. In the case of Oath Keepers and in the case of Daniel Johnson and Luke Mikowski, who is also an alternative news reporter, they got a Tormail that said it was from one of their very close friends, somebody that they keep in contact with. There was an attachment with them. Most of these boys were smart enough to look through a program called Sandbox, which allows you to, and I know this is techie for those of you that aren't on the Internet. It took me a while to learn it too. It's a program that you can use that kind of acts like a sandbox, if you will. You can kind of see what's in something before you open it, and that's important because in most of the stings there's a prevalent undertone, and here's the undertone. Here's the guideline that just floors me. All you have to do is open it. That's it. I don't care if you delete it. There's been a case of a man in California that did the same thing. Hit a link, it popped up, he deleted it. That's it. He's had his children taken away, okay, and he's sitting in a jail cell for possession of child pornography, okay? They don't care if you don't have millions of pictures on your computer. Andrew hit the same link 2 times and deleted it. There's something called forensic trail, okay? What this is your computer forensics. It's a printout. You can either view what was actually on the computer, or a forensic technician, usually one through the FBI or Joint Task Force, takes possession of a computer, and they take the whole computer. That's important because of our other friend who is still sitting in a jail cell right now. They take the whole computer, and they take it to the forensic lab. They will do a written diagnostic of the forensics of the computer. What this information tells you is exactly what happened, okay? You can go and see that this person hit this link at this time of day. They did the link and how many clicks. It documents everything, people. Your computers record everything. And you can see that they hit the link, okay, and did they delete it. Okay, it does not matter. In the majority of the stings that are not what I call person-to-person stings, okay, that would be Florida. In the majority of what I call the Internet stings, like Flickr and Birds and everything else, the minute you hit the link, you are now in possession of child pornography. There's no little box unless you know about Sandbox and you're really a tech-savvy person and know how to put these precautions and do these things. There's nothing out there that says, oh, oops, wrong button. The majority of the children in the sting think with erasers at the end of their pencils. We teach them that in school. You made a mistake on your math test, use your eraser. The majority of the children involved in the sting that have been convicted, and yes, there are children convicted sitting in jail cells, okay? They thought, oh, made a mistake, I can delete it. Wrong. The way the stings work is they track the IP address. The IP is your Internet provider. The Internet provider then gives them all the information. Before they even came to Andrew's house, there was a file on Suzanne. That file included who her relatives were, where she lived, where she went to school, her known associates, every place that she'd ever worked. The majority of anything you'd want to know about Sue, they knew because she was the one paying for the Internet service. They knew all of that before they even knocked on that door that night, okay? Anybody that hits something and child porn pops up, okay, you now have a serious problem. Different sites on the Internet will tell you to do different things. You can go to Google questions and pull this up. What do I do if I accidentally hit child porn? And then sit back with your mouth hung open at what you're going to read, okay? Just like the man in California that accidentally hit it. He has had his kids taken away. So if you hit it, you are guilty of possession of child pornography. Why is it that way? I've been asked that a lot by a lot of parents. Why is it that way? Well, that gets going back in time to a document that is on the event page, and it is the original presentation that was done before the Department of Justice to justify the way they do the stings, okay? At that particular time in 2003, they had two unique sets of problems. There was an abundant amount of child pornography on the Internet. There are real child pornographers out there, really bad, ugly people. Plus, they were getting bombarded from the entertainment industry about copyright infringement laws. Copyright infringement laws are huge because the entertainment industry is a huge gazillion-dollar business. You know, look at what one Madonna album gets or one Kenny Rogers album gets or whoever is in your, generation, okay? We're backing up on mine here. That was a huge deal. They had to try to do something about that. There were more sites after the first initial site, Napster, popped up afterwards. LimeWire, FrostWire, Bearpaw, okay? They had to do something about it. The DOJ agreed and went ahead and let them have their program. They outlined clearly in the program that they aimed to go after P2P file sharing sites. They also brought up copyright infringement on why these sites were bad anyway. Note, not everything traded on the sites had copyright infringements, okay? Not every album or every song or every game or all the pictures on there, whatever, were copyright infringements. So they got their okay to go ahead and do it. The initial sting was dubbed Project Flicker, and it was to go after the government because pornography was showing up on government computers. Okay, that was the initial premise that started a whole big ball rolling. Plus, at that time, like I said, there was an obscene amount of child porn on the Internet, as there is today. On Facebook this morning, there were two sites that I couldn't believe were up there, and I about just screamed my head off when I saw them, especially if you're Andrew Rose's aunt and you know everything you know, and then Facebook goes ahead and shows you something that shouldn't even be allowed on there. It's shocking. Project Flicker, when they couldn't net the people because it was government people, the project morphed. In order to justify the huge amounts of spending spent, there's certain criteria they have to meet. That criteria is to prove that you're actually doing what you told the initial Congress and Department of Justice that you were doing, that you're actually netting perpetrators of this, okay? So how do you prove that? You prove that per conviction. Now, how do most of the convictions happen? Most of the convictions for the children of the sting especially, and these boys online from Florida will tell you, they want you to plea. What do they do to encourage a plea deal? That's where it really gets scary. In Andrew's case, we've been waiting, almost 3.5 years now, okay, for justice. They can keep moving around the dates and everything. Everyone says, but they have to do it in a timely manner. No, they don't, not when you're bonded out and you sign conditions of release. We happen to feel that being in his mom's basement, however bad it was, is better than sitting in a jail cell, especially for Andrew. So once you sign the conditions of release, then the prosecuting attorney can play ball on his own grounds. Now, how do they go about getting you to plead if you're innocent? Number one is cost. It costs a lot of money to fight a case like this. Number two, shame. There's a lot of shame attached to this, an embarrassment. I have heard from many parents, and I try to get them all, if their kid's innocent, to come forward, okay? Come forward. Talk about it. Bring it out in the public. Oh, no, I can't do that. I don't want my relatives finding out. Well, you just got done telling me your kid's innocent, so aren't you going to fight this? No, we're going to take the plea deal. We don't have the money, and they said it'll just be a sex tag. We'll move to Montana. That was actually a conversation I had with one of the mothers, okay?
That's pathetic, but it's true.
It is pathetic. It is pathetic, but it's true. Okay? Even within our own family, there were people that said, well, maybe I ought to let him sit there, because they didn't know. These people just really don't know. I was one of those people that would have wanted to hang him. I'll be honest, I would have, just because of what I thought I knew. Okay? That's changed. Another way that they do a plea deal is called intimidation. Sue, do you want to tell them the example of the boy one county over about the computer that was in his friend's basement? He got it back, and what they said about his mother?
The boy in the next county over had been brought in for the same thing, for child pornography on a computer that was sitting in a friend's basement for probably 6 months to a year. But prior to that, he had it at a friend's house where a lot of kids were and were using the computer. The family was fighting it at first, and they really couldn't. They couldn't get him to. He wasn't pleading or anything like that. They were fighting. They had him take a lie detector test and said, if you pass this lie detector test, then you will be free to go, all charges dropped, and everything like that. Well, he took the lie detector test. He passed the lie detector test and thought that it was going to be over. The detective, I believe, stepped in after he passed the lie detector test and said, we're not letting you go. If we do let you go, then we're going to go after your mother. And the mother got scared and said, well, I can't have them coming after me, so we'll just plea now. And now that young man has a sex offender's tag for the rest of his life because they threatened his mother. And actually, the night that they were here and took our computers, they told Andrew, tell us the truth, and we won't go after your mom. Well, most boys love their mamas, and they're not going to let their mamas go down. So Andrew, being autistic and never been away from home or been with me the whole time, was not, thought he, because he knew he was innocent, but he thought if
Andrew
he cooperated.
Andrew admitted that he hit the link. He'd never, ever
yes.
hit that. In fact, when I asked him, did you know how old the girl was, Andrew said she wasn't holding a sign.
Right.
So that begs my question, what does child porn look like to a child? But on that same note of intimidation, okay, our friend who's an alternative news reporter that's sitting in a jail cell right now, his computer became under attack, and he was trying to fight it off the day that a small-town police department decided to raid his home. They had the family at gunpoint on the porch, and they took several hours inside of his home. This was a reporter that had pissed off the wrong politician, and he's now sitting in a jail cell. But when they questioned him, they did the same thing. You better fess up, or, we're going to go after your mom, okay? You'll see this intimidation. That's one thing that's prevalent in every single case. You are discouraged from trying to fight, especially in those cases of the children. And some of the adults, they didn't do that with. But in the majority of the cases of the children, and there are thousands, I mean thousands, every single state of the union, people, there are thousands of children that hit these links daily. That is the one underlying thing I see a lot of, is the intimidation and the outright lying about what your rights are. They'll outright lie to your face. I've got one mom that actually recorded the police officer sitting there lying to her about the law. They don't care. You've got to remember, the police department's given a license to lie. You have to tell the truth, but they don't. And most people don't know that. Okay? One of the other stings that's prevalent right now, besides Porngate, which is the deliberate setting up by agencies or public officials to take out one's opponent, largely people like Panda, People Against Indefinite Detention and Oath Keepers. These are big political sites. We all know what they're doing as far as the IRS scandal with different groups, okay? Well, this is no different, okay? Like our little friend that's sitting in prison right now, waiting for his day in court, okay? That guy sitting in prison is a victim of Porngate. It wasn't the right agencies involved in all known stings that came after him. It was a small-town police department. B, the mishandling of the evidence in this case. They just took the hard drives out, and in all the cases, you know better than that. They take the whole computer, and it's a forensic tech that does it, and only a forensic tech. Okay, it's not done the way that this was done. But there is such a thing called Porngate. Porngate's a deliberate setting up or entrapping you with porn. That happens many ways. Tor mail's one way that happens. It can actually be done through Facebook, too, people, by different attachments and things. You have to be pretty computer savvy to know what you're doing. So that's how we know that it happens at a higher level than most people think. But it can be done through other social media sites. Angry Birds. But the other big one that's going on right now is not only used by police, government officials, similar to Porngate. It's called revenge porn. Do you guys know what that is?
I've heard of it.
Okay.
I've heard other
revenge
countries are
porn can be
people.
Right. Okay, say I'm your ex-wife. I'm really mad at you. Do you all remember when Paris Hilton's video came out, the sex videos? Okay, every movie star's got a sex video out there that turns up, right? Revenge porn kind of works that way, too. Revenge porn is when somebody decides, gosh, I'm mad at my ex-husband and it's not going the way I want. I've got that old video. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that video and stick it out there. Okay, that's one form. The revenge porn that I'm talking about sting-wise isn't your ex-wife that's doing it. It can be one of your business adversaries. It can be the federal government. It can be anybody that is pissed off at you. All it takes to put your butt in jail is for one picture of child porn to appear on your computer. Revenge porn is when somebody takes, it can be anybody now, any of your nemesis, and deliberately places that on your computer or in a format that they know that you're going to accept on your computer. That is revenge porn. And it's sweeping the nation. Absolutely. A lot of ex-wives will do it to their husbands and say, oh, I want custody of little Johnny. He's got this on the computer. The case that I turned me on to that out of Nevada happened just that way. Now, it doesn't stop there, people. We have cases of a 16-year-old boy, when he was 16 years old, took provocative pictures of him and his 16-year-old girlfriend. Years down the road, that computer was sold. The pictures were still on it. Police tracked him down. He's now sitting in jail for producing and possession of child pornography, to include himself. Doesn't that sound mind-boggling? He and his girlfriend took pictures of himself. It was on his computer he sold, and sold computers is another topic we'll get into. But it was on his computer that he sold. He didn't delete all of his stuff. Most people don't know you got to do that. You need the money, you sell the iPhone, you sell the computer, you sell whatever. So he was charged with 2 counts of both of those charges, not only possession but production. It was himself he's being charged with. So can you imagine being charged with child pornography and you're the child that you're being charged in pornographing?
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah.
That's one thing
money.
That's one thing, Kitty, that's really boggled my mind is that in other cases, because I've watched documentaries on similar topics, and how can a child be charged with looking at child porn if they are in fact children? It just doesn't make sense to me. at all.
Okay, well, let me get into that a little bit, okay? In Andrew's school, as in many schools, some do teach it, some don't. There's no sex ed education about that. If I'm a mother of a child and my child's coming home telling me about child pornography, I'm going to go nuts on the school. We all have this belief that it can't happen to our kid. We don't need to talk to our kids about that. We'll hand them a book, okay? We don't want that taught in our schools. Here's the problem with that, okay? Not only is it the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but the problem with that is you're the same parent that goes out and buys your kid that brand new computer, that brand new iPhone. You have no idea where they're going to go on it. You don't bother sticking controls on it, filters on it, because you don't know enough about it yourself. But little Johnny next door's got one, so by God, my kid's going to have one too. Let me get you an iPhone. Now, to be on Facebook, they want you older than 13. How many of us know that there's kids younger than that on there? I'm one. My hand's up. How many other hands are up?
My hand's up.
Okay.
Right.
Yours too? How many parents, when they buy those kids their gadgets, bother to sit down and talk to that kid about things like child pornography? What does child pornography look like to a child? You were sold sex at every turn, everything from soda pop to pickup trucks. You've got some big girl with boobs and everything. Let's look at Miley Cyrus. Our kids are flooded with sexual images daily, thousands of times a day if they're on the Internet for more than an hour, okay? So you're a kid. You don't know anything about sex. Your school doesn't teach it. The only thing that your school does teach is they make you sign a contract saying you'll be good online, and they do teach about online bullying. But you're a kid. Let's say you're a teenager, okay? You're looking for a song, and you hit a song, and there's a set of boobs right there. If you're a puberty-stricken boy, now, boys, answer me dishonestly, Florida gang, are you going to look at those boobs?
It's a guy thing, of course.
Yeah.
It's a guy thing, of course?
Instinct.
Of course?
That's unfortunate.
Okay. I liken that to Grandpa's sock drawer. You're in Grandpa's bedroom, you're digging a sock drawer, and there's a Pete book. Are you going to look? If you're a boy, a puberty-stricken boy, oh, hell yeah, you're going to look. Let's be honest. Who didn't? Okay? It was that type of thing. The Internet makes that Peep Show book look like it's, kindergarten. But we'll go out and we'll buy our kids those latest gadgets, but then we're going to get mad at the school if they dare touch a subject like sex because we're a good Christian family, especially when it comes to autistic kids.
Hey, Kitty, I'd like to go ahead and take a break. We're at about 30 minutes left of the live show, and I would like to let the listeners, the online listeners, know that after the live show ends in 30 minutes, we will go into overtime up to a third hour that you could listen to if you call this number, 347-205-9576. Again, to listen to the overtime hour, call that number. Otherwise, everything that goes on after the live show ends will be included on the archive recordings for future listeners who listen online through the podcast recording. We are back on Stay Bold Radio. That was Payday Monsanto with Automated Oppression. Who shot JFK? Oswald pulled the trigger. But we know it's much, much bigger. Whenever there's a powerful man who stands for freedom, they turn on the machine that's programmed to delete him. It's a lot of good lyrics there. I'm a big fan of his work. We're bringing everybody else on, Kitty, Chris, Sue, Scott. Trey said he might have to bounce here in a minute, but I believe he's still on currently. The time is 9:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The date is February 7th. You're listening to Stay Bold Radio. This is the Aberration. And we're going to pick back up where Kitty left off with a very, very valid point. One of the main points, I think, of this episode. In this modern society where everything, the advertising and marketing people have put a dollar sign on everything. And what's one of the best tools for advertisement? Sex. sex sells. So, even if someone is trying to protect their child from any ideas of sexuality, just completely keep them in the dark to all these topics, they're going to see it. They're going to see it when they watch a Hardee's commercial. They're going to see it when they watch a Disney movie.
Yep.
In fact, so what does pornography look like to a child? What does child porn look like to a child? Because in this day and age, sex is made to be very casual, very everyday. It's everywhere in marketing, television, movies. And on that note, Kitty, you want to go ahead?
It's sad that it's come to that, but we're not living in a 1952 Norman Rockwell painting, folks. Those days are gone. I posted in the event page today about a 13-year-old autistic kid that is impregnated, and she was sexually taken advantage of. I find that in most of the child sting cases, and there are literally thousands of people, I personally looked at over 400, okay? Every single state's been affected. In most of them, I'm going to say a good 50% of what I have looked at, the child is autistic, Downs, or developmentally delayed in one form or another. Okay, that's a statistic that alarmed me to no end. The fact that they would even pursue this type of click, oops, it's on your computer, you're going to jail kind of thing. So that's what made us look into the funding and everything else. It's not just kids, though, and it has morphed. Project Flicker morphed. What I mean by morphed is when they couldn't prosecute the government officials or did their one or two little token prosecutions, they had to justify the spending. Child porn is still prevalent despite all the efforts and all the stings out there on the web today. In fact, this morning there was something so heinous on Facebook, I about died when I saw it. Okay? That's something that needs to be addressed. But here's something else that I think really needs to be addressed. If you're going to go out and buy your child that gadget, that iPhone, that iPad, that computer, and you don't know about these things, you should. You need to. There is money set aside to teach you about it, but obviously it's not going to the right places if you don't know that this is happening. Okay? This show isn't funded. There are no sponsors. This is a group of people that have been affected by this and want everybody to know that it's out there. So next time little Johnny wants that iPhone, iPad, and everything, I hope to God that you people put filters on it. All it takes, be you an adult or a child, is to hit one link, and it is saved to your hard drive. Most people think, oh, well, I can delete it and do a cleanse and it's going to be gone. It doesn't work that way, people. Not anymore. Maybe in the old days it did, not today. Today with the NSA, and you don't even know the half of what they can do, people. Like I said, the Internet's a two-way door. If you can send it out in the ionosphere, it can come back to you, okay? And other things can too. Unless you know, and you're a computer forensic tech, and you know, you're not even going to understand the trail on how they go about doing this. And that's the other part of this. In all of these cases, be they the Florida stings or anything else, it really does depend on a forensic tech. Now, people have said, what about intent? In Andrew's case, what about intent? It's obvious in Andrew's case. In fact, my nephew's case is the most mild of the children caught up in the Internet porn. Laws vary from state to state. Up here in Alaska, we had seven young boys that were taken in for possession of child pornography. Some of these boys had hundreds of images. They had downloaded it. Hey, Joe, come look at this. I just found some boobs. Look what that guy's doing to that kid. Okay, here's what happened to them. Our magistrate saw them all on the same day, and you had your Interpol, Internet sting people right there with them, the whole joint task force. Our magistrate was appalled. Her first words are, you've got to be kidding me. Her second words, because it already went to a federal court level, she looked at all seven boys and said, boys, here's the deal. You're going to graduate all from high school. I'm going to put you on probation until you do. When you're 18, this goes bye-bye. She looked at the joint task force standing there in front of her and said, how dare you and do you never do this again in the state of Alaska without notification or prior notice to us ever again. Alaska is the exception to the rule. I'll give you another example. In North Carolina, they had the Adam Walsh sex tag. Look it up online, people, Adam Walsh sex tag, and what that means. We all presume that you were innocent until you were proven guilty. It does not work that way anymore, people. Welcome to the People's Republic of America. Those days are gone and ended a long time ago. Nowadays, you are thrown in jail. You are not allowed bond on an Adam Walsh sex tag. You will sit in jail until your day in court. If you do get out of jail on bond or allowed bond, most cases do not, you will have an ankle monitoring device in which you will pay for. You will have to be third-partied out. They will have access to your home. If it was a computer sex crime, internet porn crime, they're going to make sure that you don't have computer access. That's the fate of one of our dear friends that's sitting in a jail cell right now. Okay? There's no more innocent until proven guilty. When it comes to these kind of things, you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent. There's the case of the San Francisco firefighter. One of the other stings that is prevalent right now is how many of you people have Wi-Fi?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You got Wi-Fi? Y'all got Wi-Fi?
Oh, yeah. Just about
you guys think you got it encrypted so nobody can get in there?
I'm not going to say I don't do, actually.
Okay, one of the latest things, people, is using your Wi-Fi. We're still hammering out the exact details of it, but we have tracked several of them to the Wi-Fi. Now, it's common knowledge now that on some of the computers that the NSA wanted certain back doors to. If you order a computer online, they intercept the computer and they plant a little back door in before they send it on to you. The Wi-Fi is a good thing for us if we want to just go around and have our computer not plugged in and do all that kind of stuff, but it's also very bad for you. It's very bad for you because anybody can access your Wi-Fi. Note, the majority of the stings are tracked through the IP addresses, okay? Another bad thing that is happening now, and everybody that gets online and you get on Craigslist and, oh, man, there's that iPhone I wanted, and it's cheap. That guy's moving, and he's going to have a different, I'll buy that. There are several cases of people that are sitting in jail right now charged with possession of child pornography that weren't able to afford a good forensic tech to defend them in court and got stuck with court-appointed attorneys with overly big caseloads. And it turned out that it was on the computer. And then they wanted to get Andrew for more charges because Andrew had gotten for Christmas a laptop computer. Grandma had bought these refurbished laptop computers through a special that was going on, I believe through Walmart or Kmart, one of those two. Anyway, they were selling the refurbished Christmas special computers. One of my dear friends, Cindy, was the one that was able to look and realize that the implantation date on the computers was October. Andrew didn't get the computer until Christmas.
Wow.
Okay, so bingo, that's gone. But if you don't know a forensic tech and your defense attorney isn't real hip on what these things are, you can hang for that. There are people in jail for that.
Absolutely, a lot of them, too.
Okay, now before you have to go... Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, the biggest reason that all of these stings are so successful and that you never hear about them is because the child porn is such a heinous, taboo subject. Like you were saying, the parents do not want the word to get out. The child takes the plea. Everything's kept hush-hush, and the machine just keeps rolling along.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's the same thing with the Florida sex sting. It's the same thing.
Well,
we have like 7 suicides in the last. They were all within about a year and a half time frame, which have pretty much gone unnoticed.
Yeah.
How come it hasn't been reported? And it's just going to increase as these things increase. That's just
right.
the way it is.
Kitty also said that you were one of those people that said hang him. Hey, we all are. You know something?
Right.
When the police do say we've got somebody on child pornography, everybody within earshot of what they heard says hang them, because they don't know, and they immediately assume that they're dealing in child porn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of being a victim of a government entrapment sting.
And how many people sitting in prison say I'm innocent?
Pardon?
How many people sitting in prison on that go, but I'm innocent. I didn't do it. I didn't know it was there. Do you know how many times I hear I didn't even know it was there? There's a famous case of a pastor that was arrested for multiple on his computer, multiple images. Okay, now, what people don't realize is they think that he spent 12 years downloading images. They can upload that many to your computer in the blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in our friend's case that's sitting in a jail cell in North Carolina. Okay, over 500 images. That can be re-uploaded to your computer in the blink of an eye. There's a virus that plants it on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you all heard me right. There's actually a virus. If you get the virus, you don't need to even do anything. It will do it for you.
Absolutely.
How many of you have heard of ransomware?
I haven't heard of that particular.
Let me explain how this one works. You're on your computer, and all of a sudden your little eyeball there comes on, and bingo, across your screen is the official seal of the United States FBI right there.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that before. Right.
We have found porn on your computer. Then it will use your camera to take a picture of you, put that picture on your computer because you're sitting right there in front of it.
Right.
And ransomware is just that. They will charge you. You have to call this number and do these things, and you have to pay anywhere from $300 to $2,000 in one guy's case was the highest I ever heard, in order to get that off your computer.
I've removed that stuff before successfully, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've seen it.
That's called ransomware. That's just another form. Okay, the
and
virus
chances are,
going around
if
changes.
you pay the ransom, they still won't unlock your computer for you.
Exactly.
That's all out of Nigeria and third world countries.
If you're good enough, you can get that removed. But it's just, I've actually successfully removed it off a friend's computer myself. But I know exactly what you're talking about. The FBI logo that comes up there looks like it's the FBI.
And it looks real. I mean, you're panicking because you hit this link, there was a girl, then there's this FBI official site, and heck, they just took your picture, and my God, you've got to call this number, pay this to get this. Oh, my God. And it's a billion-dollar business, people. And it plays off of the fear and the stigma attached, where if you just pick up the phone and you call the FBI and say, I've got this stuff on my computer, they'll tell you that you can manually turn off your computer, and there's a way to get rid of it. But this is happening all over the country right now.
Yeah, it's going to get worse, too. Oh,
yeah. It plays off the fear. It plays off the fear because nobody bothers to talk about it. If you bother to talk about these things, or if they use the educational money appropriated to them, that's the one thing they haven't done, to educate the public that these things are going on. Okay, but that would ruin the stings for them. If they use that money to educate you thoroughly in the schools, it wouldn't be there.
The biggest thing is the corruption. How far, how deep is this corruption going? And that's the biggest thing, because if it's way up there high in the DOJ, then you got problems. And
it's very high. Go back to Anderson Cooper's video. Really look at the 5,700 Pentagon employees and other government officials, to include military top brass.
That and Lori Hands as well. The same thing with with her. She called out the government in her video. It's an atrocity. It's sad. But I've got to go, people. It's been a pleasure, and we'll keep on fighting. Because, that's the right thing to do.
Talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Trey.
Mm-hmm.
When you get into the real cost of what this is, people, it goes far beyond your bail, and it goes far beyond your legal fees, and it deals with public stigma around you. In Andrew's case, taking it public worked. The town was until we took it public.
Yeah, there's a lot of costs that you don't directly think about. Just like, Trey said, he lost, $110,000 in lost wages and whatnot. It's just the other money that you don't track. Of living in the meantime and trying to deal with the charges, not just the direct costs. Like I paid probably $50,000, to between lawyers and getting the car back and bond and fines. Actually, I'm probably over 50 now because I've been on supervision.
You pay for probation too, don't you? Probation
right,
costs.
That's what I was saying. I'm probably over 50 now because I've been on supervision. I'm still doing my sentence. I had a year in the county, 2 years community control, which is what I'm on now, and then I got 8 years probation plus sex offender probation, which has been running since my my conviction. So it's a lot of costs you don't think about directly. That whatever lost. Plus I'm a freelancer. I have no idea how much money I could have made. It's hard
like
to
in Andrew's
impossible
case,
to track.
Just the trackable money with Andrew's case, and the prosecutor won't do anything except to keep delaying. We're well over $20,000, and his mother, all the lost wages, gas back and forth, getting him to court and back every time this gets postponed, it's just astronomical. That's another reason they're so successful in getting all of these plea deals is because who can afford justice anymore? No one. It's impossible.
Right.
You're guilty until you're proven innocent.
Justice is for the rich.
And the ones that, in my theory, the ones that can't afford it, they do backdoor deal or do a plea deal or they buy the way out of it. So prosecution.
Or you get diagnosed with affluenza, like that kid that just did the drunk driving and killed the 3 people, but the judge said that he suffers from affluenza. His parents were too affluent, so he just gets rehab. He doesn't get murder charges. Anyone else have a problem with that one?
I had a huge problem with that one.
Hey, guys.
Yeah.
We got a caller on the line that wants to say a few things real quick before we wrap up the live feed. And, caller, you're live on Stable Radio.
I don't know if that's me, but I was listening to the whole time. My son was also caught with child pornography 10 years ago, but at that time it was a state crime. It wasn't a federal crime. But what happened was after 10 years, they decided that they wanted to try to revoke his probation and put him in jail. Luckily, there is a statute that they cannot do that after somebody's been on probation for 10 years. They cannot revoke his probation unless he's committed another crime, which he hasn't done. But right now, thankfully, we did get him off probation, but I'm very appreciative of you warning me about all the things that that somebody can do to get caught back in again, as far as child pornography goes. And I also wanted to mention that I don't know if any of you are familiar with Temple Grande.
Yes, I am.
Yes, I am.
Her mother wrote an article about autism and how many people with the autism spectrum do go to child pornography, and how there is a connection.
They have heightened sensitivity disorder along with autism. What
right.
heightened sensitivity disorder is it's the ones that don't like to be touched is because certain touches bother them. So ones that have problems with sound, it's sound. Well, sexual stimulation is also a form of stimulation. Okay, so once you're exposed to it, their visual is very stimulating to them. Okay,
right.
So there's, but it's the government in these cases that are the first ones exposing them to child porn.
That's right. But they just, I don't know how this can be publicized, and I don't know if the government even cares that so many of these people that get caught or roped in do have problems like Asperger's or autism and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you go about presenting this case to them, whether
Honey,
they would even care.
you're doing it right now. You're doing it right now.
Well, it's a big problem
How you do it is
because
you start talking about it, and you don't shut your mouth until they listen. You talk about it on every format you possibly can. The life you're saving could be somebody's innocent child or your husband's, brother who's just looking for a date.
I will tell you that because of this program, I did find out some of the games my son was playing on his iPhone, and I did let him know not to be playing those games because of what I heard actually in the show, and I am so grateful that you talked about this. You really saved who knows what would have happened. So I really appreciate, like you said, any time you hear anything, you should pick up on it, especially when it comes to something like this.
Well, great. Thank you. And, it's a scary thing because the kids know more about the computers and devices than we do.
Right.
Absolutely.
Hey guys. I got about 1 minute left of the live feed, so before we go into overtime, I wanted to say thank you to all the live listeners online, and tune in next week to the Aberration for episode 27. Tomorrow night on Stable Radio is Thunderdome, the Saturday night show, which is hosted by James Ward. Tomorrow night, his guest is a man named Peter Eugene, who's going to be talking about the divine portion, in particular, how this relates to sovereignty, breaking away from the U.S. corporate system, and basically taking back your existence by destroying the birth certificate that you were registered as birth, as property of the U.S. corporation, much like a rancher would get a certificate for his cattle. So tune in tomorrow night for Thunderdome with James Ward, with guest Peter Eugene, and then we have Wednesday night we have Tri-Cities Grace Quest. Thursday night we have Apathy No More. Friday night The Aberration, and Saturday night is Thunderdome. And thank you for tuning in to Stay Bold Radio. This is Cole Johnson signing out for the live feed. And we are now officially into overtime. I'm not sure if I cut you off, Scott, but if you want to pick back up what we were talking about, the fact that the children, you're right, I'm 32 years old. And so when I graduated high school in 2000, that was right around the time that things were really taking off. Everything was going digital. The Internet was becoming the giant it is today. And I actively chose not to get involved with the Internet. I stayed out of it until I got involved with the truth community. And then I use it to speak out like I am tonight, and giving Kitty and Chris and everyone a format to come and speak about these topics. So I had stayed away from the Internet for a long time, and what I found once I started using it is how little I know. And you guys hit the nail on the head that these kids, they grow up and they know how to operate an iPhone by the time they're, 3-4 years old. Before they're even, before they're really actually, socially active, talking full sentences, they can operate an iPad.
Right.
Exactly. And, the corporations are selling the parents the computers and the devices by the billions, and there's absolutely, we're expected to consume, we're expected to stay online, progress with society and the Internet and everything, but there's absolutely no training for any of us as far as how to use it, how to stay safe on the machines. It's basically buyer beware, go in, blow them up, trying to figure out how to use them and hope you don't get in trouble.
Well, there's a reason for that. Okay, there's a very good reason for that. The world is turning digital. There's going to come a day here real soon when we're no longer going to have a post office. They expect you to access your bank accounts and everything via online. Never mind the fact that, people can, like Target stores can get your information and stuff, but we're turning to a digital world. There's several reasons for that. It's more convenient. They'll tell you it's to get rid of the paper. They'll tell you all kinds of things. It's actually about control when you get down to the end of it. You follow that line all the way down to that dot, and that dot is control. What do we have going on? We've got the NSA. We've got the Patriot Act. We have no rights whatsoever. We know that they can set you up with child porn, and you don't even have to do a damn thing if they want to take you out politically or otherwise. But they don't go and prosecute their own personnel within the Pentagon or the government that have done this. Okay, that should be enough to scare anybody. We may think we would like to move away from technology. It's not going to work that way. You're a target if you don't have a Facebook. Then you're somebody to be watched because you're not conforming to what the world's telling you need to do. In fact, you'll find people that don't get on the Internet, that don't have the Facebooks, don't do this. They're targets too. They're potential terrorists because you're not conforming. So, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I think the key to it is education. I really believe that sexual education and Internet understanding of what child porn is should be taught at an early age because it's out there. And if you don't teach them, somebody else will, people. Not only that, but you've got to look at what's going on with the whole bigger picture. If you step away, back from everything, and you look at our boys in Florida, you look at the Trojan horse sting, and you look at the flicker sting, and you look at all of this, and you step back from it all and say, okay, what is really going on here? These guys over here don't get prosecuted. They're government. There was a D.C. cop that just killed himself. He was caught with a teenage runaway, and he was running he was running a real-life prostitution ring. You look at the amount of government officials that are caught up in this. That goes back to the copyright. It's not just the government officials, but you're talking members of the entertainment industry. I'm going to throw one out there that everybody knows. Michael Jackson. Okay, you don't think that money can get you off? Guess again. And that's just one, people. Okay? Let's look at Woody Allen. Okay, you've got people right now accusing Woody Allen of this. Okay, do you notice how these people never go to jail for these crimes? Anybody else notice that?
Mm-hmm.
They suffer from affluenza. Okay, it's affluenza, people. They're too affluent to go down. These are what we call the movers and shakers. The entertainment industry and political ties go way back. They both scratch each other's back. Look at how many stars you see coming out in favor of Obamacare. Okay, they use each other. This goes back to the Internet copy laws, and it goes back to trying to get child porn off the Internet. But like I said this morning, there was a nasty all over my Facebook. I saw a nasty that you shouldn't see on there. Okay, so on one hand, you're going to come after people. When you're appropriating funding for educating them, you don't educate them, you educate law enforcement. You don't give any kind of forewarning for anybody out there. You just tell them, okay, well, LimeWire and file sharing is illegal. Well, show me where you taught this 17-year-old autistic kid that. Let me get this straight. You didn't teach sex education in school, okay? You didn't teach Internet safety in school. You didn't teach about pornography in school. But you're going to prosecute him because he hit a link looking up a song and there was a girl there and he deleted it. That's enough to take 20 years of his life, 10 years for each count, and give him a sex tag? Really? You prosecute that which you do not teach? Really? Anyone else got a problem with that?
I do.
And let's look at the poor boys too. Down in Florida. Okay?
Hey, guys. Hey, Kitty.
They're on
Kitty, I wanted to mention that we have a caller on the line now, a friend of ours, Eva. Eva, did you want to speak up?
Yay.
Hi, I just wanted to tell you guys, great show. I don't think that tonight was enough night. I think that there should be a part 2.
Definitely. I want to get the boys back from Florida, too, and explain in detail for people as a warning what to look for, because there's certain clues that you can identify these with now. Correct, Chris?
Yes, I would like to find out about those. I think that's very important.
I think it's extremely important because where do our guys go when they want to date anymore? It all stems from the Internet, too.
Yes.
You know, there are adult sites and there's kids' sites and there's anybody's sites, and I think that it's important they know about this stuff. And
yes.
I think it's important you know about the ramifications.
You did me a big service tonight just telling me about Angry Birds. So whatever else you can warn people about, believe me, you're doing a wonderful service to everybody.
I didn't even get to them all yet. There's many.
Scary thought, seeing that the government actually is targeting a child game online that you know the majority of the users are going to be under 18. And
right.
with Angry Birds, quite a bit under 18.
Right. And
well, why would they do this? What is their motive?
Okay, glad you asked. Do you want to know?
Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Private prison industry complex, 1.
Right.
Here's the big problem with private industry complex, people. They have to keep producing more prisoners in order to keep them profitable. There are certain states now that have private prison industry complexes that are now suing those states because they do not keep them full enough. Okay, now that being said, you need to look at the shareholders and who owns stock in the private industry complex. You will find a lot of them sitting in Congress.
Right.
You will find a few sitting in Senate. It's
right.
not rocket science, okay?
Yeah, follow the money.
You have to keep feeding that machine.
That's
you
right.
follow that money.
We have another caller who's been listening and is wants to say something. Stop the insanity. You're live on Stable Radio.
Oh, no, I'm fine. I just hit the 1 button just to get involved.
Okay.
Well, go ahead
Well,
and
speak up anytime you want.
But if anybody does, there was some discussion about what a sting ad actually looks like. I posted one in the chat window.
Okay. In the event page?
Yeah, on the event page, there's the chat box underneath the. And I just posted a link to what we believe is an active sting ad.
Okay, I'm on it. Who is
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm in the process right now. I'm gonna share that on the event wall as well.
Okay.
So your point is that why would they want to do this? Why would they want to entrap citizens? Because they have a contractual obligation to these private prisons to keep them full.
Yes, it's that.
And all
part
the
of
money,
it is,
all that cream they scrape off the top, you know.
Well, then we need to get back to the money involved in the stings itself. Okay, there's a huge amount of money there, but you have to keep justifying the expenditure of that money. So some cases they do it quarterly, some cases they do it yearly. No 2 states ever handled it alike, even though all federal cases should be handled with, textbook standards. They don't, But that money, you're paid per prosecution. Now, let's say you're in a cash-strapped state like Missouri, okay? It's very, very costly to go to trial. It is extremely costly. You're going to do everything you can as a prosecutor to, A, nail that prosecution whether the person's guilty or not. Okay, that's your job. Prosecute, prosecute, prosecute. That's how you make your bread and butter. That's how you get paid. Okay? So when they look at your stats on how many child pornographers are you guys putting away to justify this obscene amount of money that we're paying everybody, they first hit the task force up to say, okay, who have you caught? Then they look at the prosecuting attorney in charge of prosecuting that case and say, okay, what have you done? His job is to get a conviction. That's it. He wants a conviction. He will do it by hook or crook, especially if you live in Franklin County, Missouri. Okay, hook or crook. So here's the deal. You got to get that conviction. The way that they go about prosecuting the cases is they follow the IP address. They do what's called a forensic hard drive dump. During that dump, they will use anything, not just the pictures that you hit and planted. They will use the whole complete hard drive and any of that information on there to help prosecute you for that case. Here's the problem with doing it that way. I'm going to do a hard drive dump. This gets back to I bought a computer in December, but the forensics show that the implantation of this undocumented new picture here was in October, okay? Unless my attorney hires a good forensic tech and knows what they're looking for, that prosecutor will use anything other than those pictures as well to help enhance that case, okay? So he's dumped your whole hard drive. You have a 7-year-old computer. He's going to look at 7 years of where you've been. any little engine search. You could punch in, God, I like my sister's ass, okay? That's going to be used against you, too. They're going to use that to say, not only did he hit that, but if you look right here, Your Honor, we can tell that he had intent to do so right here. That's called thought police in our book. Okay, it's wrong. You need a good, damn good attorney to point that out. Okay? Now, Casey Anthony would be sitting in jail if you could legally prosecute what people punch into search engines. Okay, also, if you have a good defense attorney, he's going to defend you on that and say, but that never came up. You're just showing that they punched it in. So were they thinking about it? What were they doing? When the prosecuting attorney can't answer that, that's where the defense and your lawyer comes into play. But in addition to a lawyer, if you're going to beat these cases, you better have a damn good forensic tech, because the forensic tech that works for the FBI, his job is just to find it and dump it and write it all up. His job doesn't even care whether you're guilty or not. He's doing his job, just doing my job. Here's this guy's intel. Look at that. Here's all the questionable stuff I found there. Here's the 2 pictures we planted, but look at all this other shit, too. Yeah. There's a huge problem in the way it's you prosecute the cases, and there is no set guidelines, really. It differs from state to state to state on how that data is analyzed and how it's presented. It also differs from good prosecuting attorneys to bad, an example of which is the federal prosecutors in the state of Missouri decided to decline my nephew's case. It is a Franklin County, Missouri prosecutor, Mr. Robert E. Parks, from a lower court that decided to. But he has financial incentive to do so.
Mm.
And you'll also find out that in the majority of the cases with the younger people involved, the federal prosecutors normally do tend to decline the case, and they send them to lower courts, so they're not tracked.
They did that for a reason, so that you cannot track them exactly. Federal court cases you have easier access to when it's that high profile of a case than you do a smaller, lesser court. When you're dealing with juveniles, people under the age of 18, when the offense was supposedly committed, you can quite often, even with the Freedom of Information Act, be declined the information because of the protection of the minor. So on one hand, you have the state prosecuting them as a federal prosecuting case in a lower court, and on the other hand, you have that same government telling you we can't tell you anything about it because they're minors. Anyone else got a problem with that?
Boy.
Indeed.
Terrible. It is.
Oh, a nightmare.
The whole answer to how to... You got to keep talking about it, though, people.
I know. I mean, how much, to what degree? I mean, where do we go from here? I mean, so many people are affected by this, and what do you do?
What do you do?
I'd like to make a comment
ask a nice host if we can have another day to get on and talk about it, where we'll bring on more people affected by it. You talk to those people affected by it and let them know they need to talk. In my nephew's case, we started with a face page and a video. The video was supposed to just be to let people in that town know so they would quit wanting to hang this poor little kid, okay? But it had an adverse effect we never expected. I really did not know how deep this went. That video came out, and my God, I got hit from everywhere. I was like, he's not alone. They're coming in from every state. Oh, my God, this one's 11,
Well, this is what the organization that we belong to, Caution Click, that's what we do. I mean, this is CCNCR, and that's what we're trying to do, is to get everybody together to fight this one way or another. And that's how I found out about this show, is through Caution Click.
Well, let me do this. Cole, Caution Click would like to come on your show. Do you think we can arrange that?
I think so. I mean, there's a board.
We just had a so there you go. How many people can you get to come on and talk about it? The more we talk about it, the further we get all these out there, the more people are going to be educated.
Well, you tell me when the next radio show is, and I will tell the board, and we'll get as many people as we can from Caution Click on, because everybody from Caution Click is all, they're fighting this CP battle.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you what. What we can do is arrange for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday nights are open. We do have a host that's going to be starting on Tuesday nights, but he hasn't started airing yet. So that night's still available, or Sunday night or Monday night, and we can do a complete show dedicated to this topic and Caution Click.
Well, that would be great.
Okay.
That would be great.
I think that
go ahead.
Go.
I was going to say another thing you can do is talk to your congressmen and your senators, both state and federal. There are some federal senators that are actually starting to see this now and react a little bit. Chuck Grassley is one of them. He's
right, and
one
I don't know if you know about this Lamar Alexander, whose aide committed suicide because he had CP. Right. We've been writing him. I'm on the media committee, which is the whole organization is a grassroots organization that's just starting now. And we're trying to.
Right, I read about this gentleman, and he actually he got, unfortunately, was exposed to child porn through the government from the P2P file sharing sites.
Right.
The same thing. He ended up getting caught up in one of the stings, and unfortunately, because he was abused as a child, it brought up old memories, and he continued on with it.
Right.
But if the government hadn't implanted it on sites that he was looking at, he probably never would have gotten into it.
That's a perfect example of entrapment right there.
It is. Yeah. It's entrapment.
Exactly.
And so what this organization is doing, I mean, we have people all over the country who we have monthly phone conversation meetings, and you have people from all over from everywhere who are all affected by the same thing. We have Reform Our Sex Offender, RSOL. I don't know if any of you have heard of that.
Yes, I have. I keep very good tabs on you.
Right. We've had we have yearly conventions. Texas Voices, where my son lives, is involved with that. Florida Action Committee. There's an awful lot of people. The thing is that it would be so much more beneficial if everybody in all these little organizations could get together and speak as one voice.
Let's do that. Let's work on that.
Because the more people you have, the more effective you can be. Trouble is to organize everybody and get everybody, together at once and to start, planning as far as having. We're trying to get a lobbyist. We're trying to. We have a media committee. We're trying to do fundraising, and it's all for the same problems: child pornography.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, I mean, if we could just, get a few of the board members on board and together on a call, I think it would be very helpful.
One of my parents proposed a project, and the project is she wanted, of the people that have been affected by this, she wanted a picture of the person under the age of 8. Okay, I don't care if they're a grown man age 2, if they've been affected by it. She wants a picture of that person under the age of 8. The project that she was going to do is putting a face to child pornography.
Is this Vicki Henry from War?
No. This is Elaine, and she's out of Texas.
Oh, okay. All right.
Her son, she's the mother of another child victim. He's 17 years old, but was tried as an adult for the mass amount that he had, and he showed other friends in that particular state. Now, that was one of the states that really slammed a kid hard.
Oh, yeah, my son's in Texas, so I know.
They'll slam you hard, but then you got to follow the money trail on that one too.
Yeah.
How much warning did you see? Did they teach it in school?
No, I mean, they didn't teach anybody about anything.
Well, she's working on a project called The Faces of those the people sitting in jail for child pornography, and she wants a picture of them as a child, and then she wants the story on the back of each of the faces, okay? The reason for as a child is because it's dealing with the subject of child pornography, but if you're going to look at it from the eyes of, oh, my God, hang them high, then she wanted people to realize that these were at one time children.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And she wanted to take this project and take it to the Department of Justice in Congress.
Well, we have a lady from Caution Click who's also Florida Action Committee who is doing the same thing. She's trying to make videos, actually, public service announcements about her son is also in prison because of CP, and she's very active in doing the same type of thing. So, I mean, if we could just get everybody together one way or the other and unify everybody so we could everybody, work together for the same cause instead of having it, separately, I think it would be very helpful.
I think we need to work on getting everybody together. You know how to reach me. Okay.
No, I don't actually.
Public support for Andrew Rose, and I'm Kitty Wolf on Facebook.
Okay, let me just write this down. You're Kitty Wolf on Facebook?
Yes, Kitty Wolf, Fairbanks, Alaska, on Facebook.
Okay. Well,
and if you pull up my profile, you'll see usually old pictures. I like to change my profile. It's a game I play with a friend, but I like to change the picture. But Kitty Wolf in Fairbanks, Alaska, I'm the only one.
Okay. Well, let me see. I mean, it would be very helpful if we could, like I said, set up another time where I could get maybe some people on board from, Caution Click.
Cole said yes, so Cole, save her number and give her yours.
Let me get your first name, caller.
Mine is Esther, E-S-T-H-E-R.
It is Esther, okay. Esther, and I have your number, and if it's okay, I will give you a call tomorrow, so you'll have my number, and we'll talk it over. But right now I'm looking at the calendar, and honestly, based on my work schedule, Sunday night's going to work the best for me. So I'm looking at about a week out, Sunday, February 16th.
Would that
be enough? That's enough preparation time? Okay, that'll give me enough time.
Yeah, I will call my my people, and what time would this be the same time?
The time is optional. It's open. This show started at 8 p.m. Eastern. Since it's Sunday night, it might be a good idea to start a little earlier.
Right.
Because a lot of people go to bed early on Sunday nights, including myself. So, I mean, we might air, say, 6 p.m. Eastern Sunday night, February 16th.
Fine. That would be super. As long as I have a date, I will see if try to get together as many people as I can, and I think it would be very helpful if everybody got on the same page.
Are you active on Facebook?
Pardon me?
Do you have a Facebook account?
My husband does, actually. I don't. I'm on it with my husband. But you could reach me on the phone. I can give you, my email off the air if you want. I mean, or I can give it to you now. It really doesn't matter.
No, don't put your email on the air. So no.
Okay.
But I have your phone number. And
okay, as long as you have my phone number, where to reach me, that'd be, if you just want to call and let me know when you're planning to have the next show, that'd be great. I will see who I can get together.
Sure, I'll call tomorrow. What time zone are you in?
Well, I'm in Florida, so it's 10:30 here. I don't know where are you now?
I'm Central, so it's 9:30 for me.
9:30. Okay, so we're an hour later.
Right, and Kitty's in Fairbanks, Alaska, so she's
about 3 hours earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're 5:30 over there. So
okay.
Just don't do it too early. We like to sleep.
I don't blame you. I don't know when you can call me. Usually in the afternoons. I'm around. Usually about 3 o'clock 4 o'clock in the afternoon is a good time. If not, you can just leave a message and let me know, about the time or how I can reach you if I need to.
Gotcha. I can do that.
Yeah, I think that would work out even better because I'm in and out all day. But I will get on this and see who I can round up. I think it'd be very helpful.
Awesome. And Chris, I want you to start thinking on an educational aspect, and I'd like to get you back too on a different show because that's an active, ongoing sting to help with the educational end of the masses. I think that we can go ahead and do what they didn't bother to do and let people know what's going on out there.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, there's a lot of people affected. I don't know what happened to Vince. He's got internet issues and whatnot. He's struggling with the sex offender status just like me, and trying to make it. He's been in it since 2008, So he's been in it a minute.
Now, is your state one of those that has the Adam Walsh tag?
No, because there's no victim.
Okay.
Actually, it's the Jessica Lynch is what that, I guess, the one I'm thinking of. But because there's no victim,
in our friend's case in North Carolina, there's no victim either, but the only conditions, were the Adam Walsh tag. So it depends, like I said, state by state. That's why I asked.
Well, Florida is supposed to be Adam Walsh compliant, but they only have one tier and two classes, sex offender and sex predator, and both are lifetime registration.
Right. You can go up for an administrative review, but that's an administrative review. That means that's at their discretion, whether, at 10, I think it's 10 years, 25, and I think there's another one. But,
lifetime, probably.
Of course, it's lifetime, though, technically. So.
And that's where I have a huge problem, too, on these kids. They haven't even begun life yet, and you're going to really put a sex tag on them? Really?
Right.
Unbelievable. Mind-boggling.
It's money, honey. When you follow it to the end, it gets to the money.
I wanted to jump in real quick to say we have about 30 minutes left, and that the caller Sue has dropped from Blog Talk Radio, and I do not know. Okay, so she did. Okay, so she did choose to go. I never know because this is something I'm wanting to just. That's why I'm stopping real quick just to point this out that Blog Talk Radio is known for dropping callers. It drops me every time it gets to about 14 minutes till the end of the live feed. It will drop my call, and I have to call back in. It's very inconvenient. Now, while the live feed is happening, it's no big deal because if somebody gets dropped, they can call right back in. Once the show goes into overtime recording, if you choose to hang up or it drops you, it will not let you call back in. That's why we always stress to the listeners before the ending of the live feed that if they want to listen, they have to call in. But at any rate, my point is that if anybody gets dropped, it's not me. It's Blog Talk Radio that does it. And on the same token, I could just as easily be dropped from this conversation anytime in the next 30 minutes. And if that happens, I did not choose to. I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Okay.
Well, I have a question.
Yes?
Kitty. Now, I use Tor browser for a lot of things, and it constantly changes my IP address. Does that make a difference using Tor or not?
Yes and no. Okay. I'm not a big fan of Tor browser because of some of the recent articles published by it through different electronic analyst groups on how they're targeting these kind of sites. In fact, if you're a common user of Tor, then you're more likely to get looked at than if you're not, because they're going after the other elements involved with Tor. I'm a big fan of Anonymous. Not everybody in Anonymous is a major hacker and breaks into all kinds of, things. Anonymous was an idea of a bunch of people getting together to try to do good things and change the world, but others took it to different directions. That being said, there was a gentleman, Pirate Bay. You're all familiar with that if you've been on the Internet at all and how it works. Well, in order to take out these people and take out the sites and to disrupt protests and things like this, if you're a big fan of using Tor, then they're watching you. And that's where I have a problem with it. Plus, there has been some interesting things also come through Tor.
Oh, really? No, I have noticed that.
I try to post on my Facebook and in different sites that I belong to. I try to post what's going on with Electronic Frontier, which are different groups that try to get words out there. They're major groups in the world of electronics, and will tell you about different things and what's going on with the different hacktivist groups or activist groups and different protest groups. You'll find that everyone thinks the NSA is just a little bit of a spying. Okay, I beg to differ with you. They know every single keystroke you make. They even know if you forget to dot an I. Okay, this is the worst of what they've done is yet to come out. Okay, the worst of what they represent and how they go about gathering information. You haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg with Edward Snowden's leaks yet. So what you're looking at is who do they want to target? Well, there's not just child porn that they want to target and not just innocent people set up, but they also want to target people that would stage protests or have other agendas that the government doesn't like at this time, and there really isn't much the government does like at this time. So bear that in mind. I believe in an open book. Okay, so if they're looking at my computer, my computer is totally stripped down to just the basic bare necessities. Okay, it's constantly being mirrored. What I mean by that is everything I do, I know they're watching, and so is somebody else, the person of my choice. That's for my own protection because I'm that internet porn sting lady. Okay, so I do that to protect myself. But if I were to go into hiding or something like that, and we had an example one night where we were on the computer and boom, it went out. Okay. And we even called up our IP server and everything, and it wasn't of anybody's doing, so I credit that one to NSA. It's a way to flag them and say, hey, pay attention to me because I'm trying to hide from you. That's the way they see it.
Well, no, I use Tor when I'm on Facebook a lot, and I do notice that Facebook has a tendency to kick me off. I thought Tor was a little bit more secure than that, but Facebook does have a tendency to kick me off, and then I go back to log on using Tor, and then Facebook wants me to ID these pictures that are on my friends list and blah, blah, blah. But I found a way around that. So I avoid having to ID anybody to log back on to Facebook.
What you need to know is it doesn't matter if you're using Tor or not. They know. By the time you hear about something in the news or some new invention or some new tracking way, you can guarantee that it's been out in the government for a long time before it even hit there.
Yeah, here's the thing with Tor. If you hit any non-Tor site like Facebook, you're no longer secure.
Exactly.
The second you leave anything off the Tor network in any way, shape, or form, you're totally unsecure, just like you were using a normal browser.
And here's a couple other items. The government also has been masquerading as their own Tor node, and actually the NSA. And there's also another way of tracking users aside from the IP address is cookies. And I know this from one of my clients. That's the way the code works. I'm not going to get into it too much, but it tracks a user when they change IPs by the way of their cookies. So it's going to do it either way around. It's either going to do the cookie to the IP or IP to the cookie. And
no, it goes even beyond that now, unless you're running an older system. I deliberately run an old system because there was no built-in backdoor in my system. Okay, I prefer the older system to protect myself. But on modern systems, all new computers and devices have a special, I'm not even going to call it a chip because it's not really that. I'm just going to call it a backdoor. The backdoor is mandatory installing on all electronic devices. They can activate your device whether you're turned on or not. Did you hear what I said? They can activate it and know what's on your computer, whether it is turned on or not.
Yeah.
I deliberately run an old system, like if you have an old truck, an old Ford straight-up 6, that's really easy to work on. You pop the hood, you know what it is. Well, the new computers are like those brand-new engines that you pop up. They're sealed. You can't even figure out what's what in there. Okay, I run an old system like I drive an old Ford truck. I do that for a reason, and I'm very honest and outspoken and out there. And that's because, I have nothing to hide. I don't want to draw attention to myself too much, but I really have through this. But if you're running on a newer system, and I'm going to say 3 years, okay, and newer, that's already pre-installed for you, honey. You don't need to do a damn thing. They've already got you.
Okay. Thank you for the information.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Esther, are you still on there?
Yes, I am.
Does Caution Click have a website now?
Yes, it does. let me get you what it is now. Okay. Caution click. Okay. Info. Well, actually, let me give you the other one. They changed it actually recently. You can just, type in caution click, and it'll come out with info@cautionclick.com.
Okay, great.
That's the email, but actually their website is www.cautionclick.com, the same thing. But if you type it in, even, and Google it, it'll come up with Caution Click. It'll direct you to the home page, and it'll tell you what we're all about.
Great. We're going to check that out later tonight.
Yeah, you should. And it's just dedicated to the subject we're talking about tonight.
Well, honey, if we can't talk about it, that's half the problem that nothing's getting done is because
that's exactly right. Everybody was afraid and embarrassed or whatever, but you want to get, you want to lick this thing, you got to speak up against it.
And the kids, the kids are stupid. Kids think that, how when you're driving in your car, you think that you're driving all by yourself and you'll pick your nose and say, yeah, okay. Right. When people are on the Internet, they also have that assumption, because here I am, I'm in a room by myself, it's just me and my computer, nobody's there, there's no faces, no talking, and they assume.
That's right.
There's a natural assumption of innocence.
Right.
Nobody knows what I'm doing. Oops, I made a mistake, okay, I can just delete that.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
It's barbaric. It's mind-boggling. I mean, when we get on some of these meetings and you hear about some of these, what their kids are going through, it's just unbelievable. And the Internet's the one place where you could be talking to a beautiful girl, and it's really a 53-year-old FBI agent. Exactly. How fair is that, Chris? And they just I don't understand it. It's a terrible thing to say, but I'm embarrassed that this goes on in America, but it does. If they really wanted to go after the true perpetrators that produce and market child porn, if that was their real intent, you'd be going after the big fish. You wouldn't be casting a net and reeling in the guppies, okay?
That's right.
You'd want to start at the top. You don't want to start at the bottom and work your way up. Well, their mentality is if you get rid of the demand, you'll get rid of in other words, if the demand dries up, they'll stop producing, which is the ass-backward way to do it. I repeat myself.
That's the exact same philosophy as the war on drugs, which has
exactly right. And one of the reasons, first of all, is that a lot of these are produced overseas. They can't get to these people. In a lot of countries, the majority are offshore, right? It's not illegal in a lot of countries. They don't get prosecuted for it. Right. So you can fly down to Brazil and do whatever you want. Right. Thailand, a lot of these countries, they don't get prosecuted, Cambodia. So they're home free. So they just take it out on the end users, and their rationale is just I don't know. It's an insult to people's intelligence. Well, here's why. 5,700 government employees. That's why. Right. But can they? How is it? They'll never investigate these people, of course, because they did their tokens. What I mean by tokens are the ones that were just so blatantly obvious. Let's throw them a bone kind of deal. Okay, they did a few. They've done a few. That's because Grassley got involved. They did a few. Yeah, a few. Okay. A few token people, and they probably got 10 people, and the other 5,000, whatever it is, got to start free. The project itself is morphed. It's no longer what it was, okay? It's morphed into many other programs. And they keep funding it, and they keep throwing money at it, and the prosecutors keep entrapping the innocent people going into it because they have to justify the money. Money, sex, or power really does rule the world. I never wanted to admit that, but it does. Oh, it does. Absolutely. And you would never think in this country it does, but it sure does. Yeah. We're one of the biggest consumers of child pornography, actually. I can believe that. Yeah, I could believe that because we're the biggest market probably for a lot of drugs or whatever. That doesn't surprise me. It's just. But if you don't teach about it, Yeah.
There are adults I know that don't know what child pornography is. Oh, that's just a negative. That's not pornography. What's your idea of pornography? Okay, by their standards, I have a beautiful picture of my newborn baby son naked on a bearskin rug.
Mm.
Well, okay, is that child pornography?
Well, they can interpret it as it if they wanted to.
Yes, they did, just like that 16-year-old boy.
Yeah. I mean, this is what it is. If they decide they want to do something, they'll use any trick in the book to do it.
Kind of makes you want to take stock out in private prison complex, doesn't it? Gee, I wonder what the returns are on that.
Oh boy, that's a whole other story that I can't. And there's
they
who
go
knows?
hand in hand.
Oh,
if
absolutely.
You're going to run sting operations.
Well,
the rate our prisons are growing by 2015. Okay, we're going to run out of funding up here in Alaska. Okay, we ship a lot of our prisoners, federal prisoners, to other states because we don't have the prison complex, the big ones up here like they do down there.
Yeah.
Okay, because we have fewer people than the city of St. Louis and the whole state of Alaska. But you need to look at who owns those.
That's right. They're all in the pockets with the lawmakers and you know, I would say some judges and who knows who.
Members
Nothing
of
would
the
surprise.
Vatican. There are movie stars, people in the entertainment business, movie producers. You've got to look at the returns on that. There's a certain group of people in this society, all that matters is that almighty buck. They worship the god of the picture of a dead president on a piece of paper.
That's right. Well, what can I tell you? Hopefully we'll at least maybe just get enough people together to fight this battle, if nothing else. Just maybe
educate.
Yeah,
that's
right.
what I want. I want the whole world to know.
That's right, and they should. Like they should.
This is just an entry issue. This goes back to, this is a broader, just an example of the negligence the education system is introduced. For who knows how long. And Kitty, you already know what I'm talking about. Where they disconnect you from the government. People say, well, the government. They talk about the government like they're separate, like this separate entity. When really we are supposed to be the government. We're supposed to be participating in it. We're supposed to be monitoring it. We're supposed to be, controlling it instead of letting it run itself. Because nothing runs itself. And when it does, it's a different entity. Then it's a group of people running it. It's not like a magical thing that's a good faith and it works on its own and whatnot. And it's just getting more sophisticated as to how it's manipulating and using its citizens and people.
Yes.
And this is an example. It's just one example.
Yes, it is. It's propaganda at its highest level.
So really, the broader mission should be to get people back engaged in the government and to remain engaged in the government. And that, that's going to be a lifelong, as far as I see it, a lifelong pursuit. To get that incorporated into the government. It starts with the education system. This should be instinct for children to be to know the government and to be participating in the government, not to be intimidated by it, and not to be afraid by it. That's at least my opinion.
And I believe that there ought to be guidelines. I want child porn off the Internet just as much as anyone else does. I really do. But there has got to be guidelines and there has got to be just laws that regulate that, not a carte blanche card that says go ahead and do whatever you want and you don't have to answer back. Okay, that breeds like that FBI agent I asked. Doesn't it bother you? No, ma'am, I just do my job. I just bring them in. I don't care what happens to them.
Well, that's probably why they don't bother to regulate it. They figure, well, we're not going to spend money regulating it. Let's just catch as many people as we can.
Well, they need to.
It doesn't cost them anything to regulate it.
Here's the thing. There's a difference between guidelines and standards, and these people have agreed, the agents and all that, they have agreed to abide by standards. And we have a copy of the standards that, that they're supposed to be adhering to. And a couple
How many
of
did
items.
they break?
What's that?
How many of them did they break?
All of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knows. 4D knows about them for sure. Standards are different though. Standards are compelled by law. Guidelines are not. Guidelines don't really mean anything. It's just like
here's the deal. When you're in court, who are they going to believe? You or the police officer? 14
well,
years
here's
on
the problem. the prosecution says there is no such thing. There is no standard. You know, so all of us going to the court in Florida, at least, we don't know about the standards when we're in the court. We found out about it after we're out of the court. You know, cases are almost, you know, back when we're allowed back on the internet. You know, a couple of our guys, I don't know who came across the standards. I don't know if it was you, 4D, or who, but because he's done a lot of work. He's done a lot of the data sifting and whatnot. You know, so, but it's out there, and they're trying to say it's not, but it's there. You know, and this is like public information. Yes, they're suppressing.
They can lie and get away with it. You cannot.
Yes.
But they're allowed to lie and get away with it.
Because there's nobody to
right.
tell them they're lying.
Right. That's if you let them. You know, it goes back to that. You gotta not be intimidated by the people. You know.
And if we keep America so dumbed down they don't know how to look up the laws or to do any of that, then we get away with it even more.
Well, the system is rigged.
Education.
Like just from mine and Chris's experience, they put all the restrictions on you as soon as you're arrested to make sure that you can't find any information.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Right. Right.
We used to be
exactly
innocent
what they
until
do.
proven guilty. I say we get back to innocent until proven guilty.
Wow.
It's not fair. It's not right. It's not the America that we got young boys out there dying for. I think that we need to keep talking, and we need to make sure that we bring these to light. It's not a fun subject. I do not enjoy this. It's aged me 10 years and 3. But I'll be damned if that innocent child sitting in his mother's basement in Sullivan, Missouri is going to go to jail for 2 clicks of a mouse when he knows nothing of these things.
Well,
you know, that's not right.
It's not right, but unfortunately, welcome to the new America. I don't know where it came from. I don't know where it's coming from. I really don't know. I mean, I can see where most of it is coming from, you know, money or I don't know, but I just don't know. I'm just blown away by it.
It's about money, but a lot of it's about control too.
Well,
just like with the Porngate cases, we don't like you, we know how to take you out now. We don't have to kill you.
Yeah.
All you have to do is get popped with that child porn on your computer, and you're going to jail.
It's unbelievable. It's just it's worse than somebody who gets caught for murder.
It is. In fact, murderers get
absolutely.
lighter sentences than these guys.
Oh, and the hands-on offenders get much lighter sentences. I mean, here in Florida, I think there was a puppeteer or something. He got, I think, 15 to 20 years for child pornography, and somebody else at the same time who actually physically attacked an 11-year-old girl. He raped her and he left her unconscious. He got half the time. Go figure.
Well, a lot of that gets down, and here's what the hierarchies are going to tell you. A lot of that gets down to the laws that the people pass. How many people really understand what laws they're trying to pass and bother to research them or bother to even vote?
Well, this is what one of the this is one of the things that Florida Action Committee and Texas Voices are doing now. They're going to the legislator and they're going through each of the bills that they're trying to pass. And as far as, you know, anything that is sex-related or child pornography or sex offender-related, and what they do is they let all the members know exactly what each bill means, what it contains, and the members actually go and lobby these legislators and explain to them what it's doing and, you know, how it's hurting and so on and so forth, and it's working, especially in Texas.
And then you've got the big lobby at the private prison complex also lobbying those lawmakers, saying, you know what, you know, we need more laws to get these guys out and these guys out and these guys out. And if you implement these laws, it's going to be really good for America. And the average lawmaker, like everybody at the first DOJ meeting, you know, it's like the Peanuts. When you're talking about it, all they hear is wah, 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 wah. Okay, they're sitting there, they're yawning, and they're saying, yeah, sounds good, go for it. Half of them can't pick apart the tech information that was presented to them.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay?
A lot of them pass laws, they have no idea what's even in the law.
Exactly. And that's got to change, too.
Yeah, they're not there half the time. They come in, they push a button, it's passed. They don't know what it is, and they don't. And until you get people actually showing up at the legislator and explaining to them what's going on, they're like, hello? They didn't know, and they don't.
You know when their eyes are open? Their eyes are open when it happens to their kid.
Oh, yeah, and that's why...
There's a whole other show on children of various members of the government that have also been caught up in these stings and nothing happened to them, just like the little boy with affluenza.
Yeah.
Okay? Our justice system is not a just system.
No, it's not. It's a legal system, but it's not a justice system. And there's a difference.
Justice for money.
Well, people, I hate to say I have to go, but I do.
I thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
Well,
I don't know. Will you call me tomorrow and just, let me know about what time you want to get together again?
Yes, Esther, I definitely will. I'll follow
What
through
is
on
your name?
that. I will call you. My name is Cole, C-O-L-E.
Okay, all right, thank you. I should have known.
And I'll give you a call tomorrow, probably, you said 4 p.m. Eastern. So
yeah,
I'll
anytime. Just leave a message and I'll pick up on it.
I got you. Okay.
Thank you so much. This was really very informative, and I appreciate this, and hopefully we'll get something going when we get a few more people involved.
Oh, they're involved. We just need to help them find their voice.
Well, that's another story, but you have to start somewhere. So.
Yep.
I appreciate
Thank you for coming on and starting.
Thank you so much
thank you. We'll speak again.
Bye-bye,
For
Esther.
sure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Esther. Thank you. And we have about 3 minutes. I'm going to wrap up the show with a song going out for the recording, and so we've probably got about 3 or 4 minutes to wrap things up. And sounds like we have a part 2 lined up.
It sounds good to me. Chris, you in?
Chris's call dropped out, and I don't know if he ended the call or if Blog Talk cut him out, because Blog Talk Radio does
Blog
that.
Talk probably cut him out.
Well, he'll be in.
It happens to me. Yeah. Happens to me like clockwork about 14 minutes before the live feed
I'm
ends.
surprised mine hasn't dropped with as much as they're watching me up here. What song are you going to play?
I don't even know yet. Probably one of those informative rap songs. Maybe not. I do have one that's kind of an informative rap song. You guys might like, might not. It's, kind of fast-paced, but makes some good points in there. I want to say thank you to everybody who listened tonight live, everybody who listens to the archive. If you've made it this far in the archive recording, thank you very much. And to the YouTube viewers, the online viewers, and to my guest tonight, Kitty Wolf, her husband Scott, to Chris, to Trey, to Eva, to Esther, to everybody who called in. I want to say thank you, and to look forward to that in a little over a week on February 16th, Sunday, February 16th, at probably 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll be doing the Part 2 featuring the people from Caution Click, Esther's friends at Caution Click. So definite progress being made. Already connections are being made, and two groups that are fighting the same battle are coming together to join forces. And so, progress being made.
I like it.
Well, Cole, real quick, thank you for having us on here and letting us get this out.
Absolutely.